time is 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order.
You're very prompt. And I agree with what he said, calling the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors to order. We have, at this point in the agenda, opening comments by the Board of Supervisors. If you can't hear, you need to pull your. Thank you.
Test. You hear that?
Hello, hello, hello. You guys good? Okay. We have opening comments by the Board of Supervisors. I am going to start to my right, which will be Mr. Jeno, Supervisor Jeno.
Well, I'll defer any comments. We'll see how the meeting goes.
Mr. Whitson?
Nothing, thanks.
Mr. Settle?
Nothing, but maybe a question. We talk about the roof here at school. Is this the part where it leaks? So is it right over this? Yeah, there's no rain in that side.
Good question.
It's got you right under where it does, so watch.
Thanks, Shannon.
I just want to say thank you for everybody being here and for setting this up. I know it is a process to get the mics and the TVs and everything going, so thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. Supervisor Comer?
Yeah, I would echo much of what Supervisor Donahue just said. Thank you to everyone for their hard work. I've had a chance to take a look at what we're going to be discussing tonight, and I'm very grateful and appreciative for all of that hard work as well. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
All right. Ready? All right. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll follow with a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if you just encourage everyone on that end of the table to really talk into their mics, it's impossible to hear. Just.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, we'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda of the school board.
So moved.
Motion, Ms. McCool. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Bynum. Any comment? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no?
And at this time, I'll entertain a motion from the Board of Supervisors to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.
And a report from our school board liaison.
Hello, I'm Rachel Wilkinson. Good evening, esteemed members of the school board. I would like to start off by congratulating Gabby Moreno on getting the lead part in the play this semester, The Little Mermaid, and reporting back about the Linus project. We're about a quarter of the way done on the blankets for that, so we're working on it. And the Quiz Bowl just won recently. They got second place in the region tournaments and advanced to super regionals, which actually happened tonight, and I got word that they also got second and are advancing to states.
Wow.
And that's all I have so far. Is there any questions?
Anyone?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with this one. Dr.
Well, just a
Grizzly?
few words of love and encouragement for our board members. But one thing I will say before we get to that, because I do appreciate you and your hearing, I don't know if the sound is actually coming through your microphone hub. Although without that, that helps. But there should be a button on the panel, Robin, if you can help me, that lets the sound come through the speaker on the hub from the mics.
On the hub?
Test. Push it. We hear it here, but You should be able to hear it all the time coming out of your hub if that button is pressed on the
There's a
panel.
volume slider on the right.
Test, test, test. Can you hear that?
I think it works better. Yeah.
Is that better?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, just making sure. So it is Board Member Appreciation Month. The VSBA, the Virginia School Board Association, claims this month as the Board Appreciation Month. Now, usually we have a lot more time to prepare, but we did have some weather that got in the way of some of the plans that were made. Usually we do have a lot of cards that are made from the kids and things, and those are I think, one of my favorite parts. We just didn't have, and we had to protect instruction time and everything, you know. But you do have a couple of special little gifts in front of you. A nice cup from the athletics department, a keychain those were made by the high school makerspace lab. So the students made those themselves. And for our school board members, you have some very special nameplates that were made in collaboration with the makerspace kids and Dr. Robin Bolt.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you very much. And if it's okay, we can move into the reports of the superintendent is what it's usually called. It's on here, items joint budget discussion. And every year I give a presentation in collaboration with Stacy and this year Bonnie is up here with us. And this is just the overall budget building blocks that are the foundation of where we begin to really look, and I say begin, but it never really ends. We're always talking about budget all year long. But these are the inputs that are really important as we develop a school fiscal year budget to present to both of our boards. So it always does begin with our vision and mission, and these are published on our website and also in our comprehensive plan. Our vision, of course, to empower every student to reach his or her full potential, and promoting a culture of learning, a roadmap for excellence, and the passion and character that leads to each student's success. The comprehensive plan is built around 6 priorities, and those are listed here in the presentation for you. Don't worry, I won't read the slide to you. They're the same priorities we've had since the plan was adopted, and we are coming to the end of our comprehensive plan, fiscal year 27, so that's next year. So next year, we'll launch a whole revamp to the comprehensive plan and ask our community members to come out as they did when we initiated this one. Key considerations, of course, supporting our comprehensive plan. How well did we do in achieving the goals that were set out in those 6 priority areas? Teacher, staff, recruitment, retention, compensation, and professional development always remain a priority. I think that is shared among basically every school district in the state and the nation. Our average daily membership, ADM, and enrollment projections are super important inputs into the calculus that is your school budget. Insurance is a huge driver in costs, in expenditures with your staffing. And of course, capital improvements, which will be the next item on our agenda to really go into depth with you. Every year we do give a community budget survey. This is how the responses were laid out by category, with the largest percentage of those who responded being parents. And each year we look at their priorities, their top 10 that come out of the community budget survey. And we did see quite a few shifts this time. More so than we've seen. Usually we only see a couple items go up or down, but this year there were some shifts. School capital took one of the top 3 spots, which I'm sure supports what we're talking about tonight. Teacher, staff salaries and benefits remain in that top 3 spot. Career and tech ed stays up toward the top, school safety, and you can see the others here. Key takeaways from some of the open-ended responses: teacher retention and compensation were the dominant themes. Majority of respondents emphasizing that salaries should remain competitive and we should do all we can to recruit and retain quality educators, which I think every administrator would agree and board member as well. School infrastructure improvements were very frequently mentioned in the survey, particularly regarding the elementary school roof, heating and cooling systems, plumbing, and general facility maintenance. Special education and instructional supports were also highlighted, especially with additional special education teachers and support, Title I resources for at-risk students. Career and technical education preparation through CTE, internships, dual enrollment, hands-on learning opportunities was also a strong priority. Small class sizes remain something that's highlighted just about every year, something that draws both parents to bring students here as well as teachers who want to teach here. That's a draw. And then extracurricular support, including athletics, the arts, and music programs. And though they were at a lower priority, they were mentioned quite a lot. Here is the enrollment and ADM trends since 2015 mapped out for you. You can see where we took a little bit of a dip and started to stabilize a little since we came back from COVID. And then also we have a slide here that shows you the ADM trend over the 15 years, and it's broken out by school, which I know is a request from the supervisors as well to see how that is laid out at each building. So that line is there for you as well. Seeing a little bit of a boost at the elementary school in recent years, but still remaining around that 735 average over the last several years. But it's worth noting that we are exactly where we were at the beginning of 2020. So let's talk a little bit about FY27 cost projections. And Stacy, please jump in anytime that you want to in this part. So the former governor's proposed budget at the end of the year for the biennium, this is how it looks for revenue. So what we see in our standards of quality or SOQ funds are about 3.2 million, a difference in the positive of 312,000. So we'd like to see that. Incentive funds took a little bit of a shortfall there. Categorical funds, a whopping $415 more. Lottery funds, 35,000 more, 35.8, which looks total state projection at 323,000 up from prior year in state revenue, which is very, very positive as we're calculating this, because looking at General Assembly bills and things, barring any huge mandates that cost a lot on the back end and expenditure side, we anticipate receiving additional state fundings through some of the bills that we're looking at. Probably not astronomical, but anything that the General Assembly pushes through will likely look positive on this end. However, we'll see in a minute how some of that, especially when it comes to standards of quality, compensation adjustments, and compensation supplement, can actually cause on the back end your expenditure lines to skyrocket with the little bit of state funds that you might receive. We looked at our teacher salary benchmarks. So these are here, these two slides are here for you to see what this year's benchmarks look like. And we did make some headway on this. We remember a lot of work the last couple of years we've done to try to increase our teacher salaries. So our rankings look much better with comparable districts. Our first year teacher salaries with the compression work we had done and increasing is now more of the middle of the range, which is sort of where we were trying to shoot for, rather than at the bottom where we were just the prior year. So we have come up 5 ranks there. So this is part of our recruitment retention work. Down a little bit at the 15-year mark and up a little at the end. And then master's degree looks pretty similar across that range. So that work has paid off, and right when we catch up, you know, the state may throw in those SOQ adjustments that may throw us back, but hey, we caught up a little bit. Speaking of the standards of quality raises, the former governor's proposal right now as it stands includes a 2% increase in fiscal years 27 and 28 for all SOQ positions. It also has some language about a 2% bonus in fiscal year 26. There's already language in the General Assembly to change some of that, and we'll look at that in in our scenarios here. But then the health insurance increase is where we're really dreading that. We still do not have our firm number, but they told us to benchmark on the high end between 20 and 25% increase. So in those scenarios, we give you the actual cost. If everybody we currently have on staff were to come back and remained on their current plans, and with the health insurance, if we absorbed any of that increase and offered the same employer discounts as we do now, You can see what those scenarios look like. So if a 2% bonus in fiscal year '26, that's this year, would cost about $161,000. But that's money that's already been allocated, appropriated. So in that case, we would have to come back to the supervisors and say, well, they put through this increase, and to actually do it, we'll need additional funding. 2% increase costs about $180,887 if that were to remain there. 5% increase, that's where you get to the almost $500,000. And the reason we put that in there is there is some bills in General Assembly right now that are gaining traction and moving out of subcommittee that are pushing the General Assembly to increase teacher salaries to the national average by fiscal year '29. And if you apply the calculus of CPI and make those adjustments to actually achieve that, that would be what the cost would be, about 5% for the next several years until fiscal year '29. Which teachers deserve it, absolutely. But remember, in our standards of quality and because of our local composite index, our county will only get 17% of what it actually costs to do that. Whereas other counties who get 60% and 70% can do that, and then maybe just a little more since we're getting so much toward that. And that's how we fall behind in those scenarios. Health insurance at 25%, like I said, keeping the same staffing numbers, same plans, and same employer contribution, that would put us at about a $445,000 cost. Current staffing, not cutting anything, that's what it would cost. And then some good news, the Virginia Retirement System, VRS, is decreasing their rate a little bit. The rate's going down, so we could recoup a little bit of that, about $180,000. So those are the big inputs, and that's about all we really have to deal with when we're talking about the figures is, okay, here's, as long as people are coming back and we know our staffing and we right-size that according to our SOQs and what the needs are and what the data shows, that's what's left. It's really your raises, your compensation adjustments. It's your raises and your health insurance that's the big drivers of any cost increases at the schools generally, other than, of course, capital, but that's separate from your operating. So our budget priorities, as I've said, support our comprehensive plan goals, teacher, staff, recruitment, and retention. Our MTSS, that's the multi-tiered system of supports, full implementation. We've received quite a bit of supported funding through grants to do a lot of this work. And we're working with the State Department, and we are in installation year, correct? So we're not even at the full implementation yet, but a lot of work has been done over the past few years. So you'll hear a lot more about that work next month. And then, of course, capital improvements, which is a biggie, and one that, of course, everybody cares a whole lot about and also carries probably the biggest price tag with it. There is a county budget schedule on here, but I will say there were a couple adjustments. So we did print out the most recent version because there was some location changes in time. So please refer to that page. It's a line sheet that looks like this. And I think we put those over there for everybody as well. So that's what I have for you at this point. It's very early in the stage right now. We're waiting to hear at crossover. That happens next week, early next week at crossover, when the bills go to the other aisle, across the aisle to the other chamber, and we'll see if they make it and what impacts that might have. So we are watching quite a few bills to, see if any major changes, but other than the compensation adjustment, I didn't see any huge changes to standards of quality and ratios, staffing ratios, and typically we're watching quite a few of those. I didn't see many of those this year. Questions about any of that?
Yeah, thanks for putting this together. Hopefully you can hear me down there.
I can hear you. Yep.
So when we look at the budget schedule, at what point do you think you'll know when we'll have the health insurance increases?
We were supposed to have that last week,
Yeah.
so any minute now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Nothing else? Okay.
I do have one question for you, Dr.
Yes.
Grimsley.
Yes, ma'am.
On the 2% increase and the 5% increase, are those net of any revenue you get from the state, or is this a total expense?
It's total expense.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you know yet what we would pull out of that amount as being just the local share?
I don't, I can get that number for you. I can
Okay.
pull the state budget and figure that out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Have you heard anything from your superintendent peers about what they're planning as far as staff increases?
A little bit, yes. And as is typical, most of the Northern Virginia school districts are, aiming for about an average of a 5 to 7% increase for standards of quality, and varying issues with health insurance depending on the plans. But that's about the target that they're working toward.
And so the bonus, it says FY '26. So that's something that would need to be executed before June 30th.
Should that version make it all the way through? But like I said, there are two, there's a Senate bill and also a House bill that are being proposed by the Democrat Party, and with a Republican governor's budget, when those make it through, they will usually change. And with the trifecta that's in the General Assembly right now, that'll likely make its way through. So with the bonus, they are changing that, it looks like, to be a $1,500 straight bonus. That can be given in either fiscal year 26 or fiscal year 27. If that is enacted, and I think that has a higher likelihood of passing, it doesn't mean it will. That has a price tag, of course, for the state as well. But that's the one that I anticipate it will shift toward. And then we can talk about things about putting in maybe fiscal year 27 as a retention bonus for folks that stay.
Thanks, Dr. Grimsley. I wanted to revisit a question I posed to the Board of Supervisors meeting maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Time flies. So I had read in the Rappahannock News that you had hired an elementary school assistant principal, and I don't know what the total compensation package is for that person, but I asked you at the time about the Code of Virginia and what it sets forth in terms of requirements for elementary schools, and it's based on, I guess, average daily membership when it triggers the need for an assistant principal. And you might recall that we had a conversation at the board meeting that, according to the Code of Virginia, basically an assistant principal is required under the Virginia Standards of Quality for 600 students or more. And I think at that time you mentioned 500 students in the elementary school, and so I guess that sounds potentially borderline, but here I see your average daily membership trend line, which I had requested at our last meeting, and I appreciate you putting that together, and it shows 434 students. And so I think as we get into the more detailed budget discussions going forward, I really would like to hear a little bit more about not necessarily that position, but the thinking that goes into staffing a position like that, the decisions that go into staffing a position like that when such a position is not required even by virtue of the standards of quality, which I think you rest on oftentimes when we raise questions about staffing levels and this public perception that your staff overhead costs might be misaligned with your needs. So looking at that assistant principal position, I would like to know, again, when there's a disparity in our teacher salaries, that puts us, potentially ranked 4th in many categories of teacher seniority education across surrounding localities. Why you and your school board wouldn't put more effort into foregoing an assistant principal position as an example, which comes with a pretty significant salary, when perhaps that money could be directed to our teachers to bring us more onto par with our surrounding localities. Because I'm not suggesting that you're misleading in any way, but it just doesn't add up to me. I just pulled up the Code of Virginia again. I see 600 students, and that triggers an assistant principal. Yet you just hired another one, and we're, as usual, going to be scrambling for dollars. And we have the separate question about whether we're able to recruit and retain teachers because our salaries aren't competitive. And so I would think a position like that, if it's not mandatory, it's not required, and we can make do without it and direct those funds to our teachers, you kill two birds with one stone. You reduce your administrative overhead costs while directing more compensation to your teachers to make us more competitive vis-a-vis surrounding localities. So I'd just like to understand the decision-making process that goes into hiring for positions like the assistant principal. And Ms. McCool was helpful, and as I was mentioning my question to her just on the side here, she did offer that perhaps the assistant principal in the elementary school plays other roles, and you're welcome to address that too. And it doesn't have to be now, but
I think this is a really, really important question because it's one that a lot of people do raise. And we do have declining enrollment, so why do you need the positions you do? When the SOQ says you need, which I have an issue with that word, it's not need. This is what the state will fund at that level. It's not what you need. And that is what the support cap whole campaign has been in school districts for many years. And assistant principal, by the way, is the number one that schools have to hire to meet the needs of students that is over the prevailing cost. So the prevailing cost of actual support staff that you actually need, that your data indicates you need for that support to support your teachers and make sure they're resourced and provided everything they need, is actually one of the number one positions where that campaign came from, because that was the position that the school districts felt that the data proved that they need. So that is making headway too. You'll see a lot of support cap adjustments in the General Assembly. So when they say support cap, the state of Virginia says, yes, you need these support people to a percentage. So we need a 0.7% assistant principal here. Okay, so then you add the other areas that we need oversight in the elementary school. This chart does not show you the preschool either, because you don't get funded this way through ADM with preschool. So you have about 60 more kids that you're responsible for in a building. So that's one of the reasons that we really feel like you do need that support in this area. And also the salary lines of our assistant principals and principals is also an area that needs a whole lot of work in some of the comparative analysis work that we've been doing. So they don't make nearly enough for the things that they do. But the decision-making process is all run through standards of quality first. We have a staffing tool that we begin at the classroom level and the student needs. So it always starts with how many, and I usually publish this staffing worksheet at next month's meeting. You can see it and use it yourself too. So here's how many kids are coming up in this cohort. This is how many sections we currently have at the elementary school, for instance. And then here's how many the ratio says we have to have. Here's how many we actually have. Are we up or down, and how many? And we do that for each of the SOQs. So if there's how many media specialists, how many of these, how many, and we input all of that. And at the end of the line, it shows you how much you're up or under. And that's where we make decisions about, well, where are we lacking? I can tell you already in doing some of the staffing work, we are lacking in special education and we need support there. And that's where we're going to funnel most of our decision-making toward making sure that's supported. And then principals, of course, weigh in quite a bit on their staffing, what the needs show, what the data looks like, and where we need those instructional supports. But the direct impact on instruction is always what guides those decisions first.
Okay.
And you mentioned multiple jobs. I forgot about that part. And most of the folks, when we do look at administrative positions in particular, you'll never be an administrator of just one thing in Rappahannock County. You can ask any of them out there. They all oversee many, many different departments instead of having one title and one role. So that's been a really tough sell to people when you're trying to recruit for some of the institutional knowledge and experience when people leave that have been here a long time in those administrative roles and have gone through the whole system. And so we're always working to cross-train and absorb as much as we can when we look at that to give that direct support. So over the course of the last 9 years, we've absorbed about 53 FTE positions into combined jobs between teachers and administration.
Yeah, I've also expressed concern about staff turnover.
Yeah.
And I still don't have a very good handle on the extent to which our salary-based competitiveness or lack of competitiveness is tied to the ability to retain or not. I don't know if it's all about money, but if you just take I don't know what your assistant principal's compensation package is, but if you look at it from a Rappahannock County taxpayer perspective, let's just assume salary benefits at $100,000. That's basically half a penny on the real property tax rate, and I think most of my constituents would have no problem paying a little bit more property taxes if it meant that our children would see the same teachers year after year after year after year. And I think to the extent possible, I just wanted to say, please, when you make decisions to hire administrative personnel, think first about what you can forego for the benefit of your teachers for the purpose of retaining the good ones, because the turnover has been troubling. And I don't know how to solve that problem absent salary increases unless other people have other ideas. But I think overall, I said at our last board meeting, and I just want to emphasize it tonight, that I think we're in a oddly good position this year because we're not hoping and dreaming and speculating about some miraculous legislative initiative that's suddenly going to pump another $1 million into our school. We know it's not going to happen, and I would be surprised if we hear during public comment anybody's to suggest that it is going to happen. In past years, we've been left with the possibility, and I think that's been somewhat distracting. Here, I think we have the benefit of having a very local funding discussion with you all on the school board and you, Dr. Grimsley and Ms. Witt, and that conversation can be wholly local, and we don't need to worry about the state legislature this time around. We'll just figure it out on our own. So I think in that sense, there's a silver lining in this funding cloud. And that's the second time tonight after 2 meetings that I've used that same silver lining in a cloud metaphor, but there you have it. So I think we've got local control this year over our funding decision, and we've got very reasonable people on the Board of Supervisors, a really good group, and I think hopefully we can quickly reach an agreement on what we can support vis-a-vis the Rappahannock County taxpayers. Thank you for your preparation work.
Supervisor Settle?
Yeah, a couple things, and it kind of dovetails on Kier's conversation, but a little bit different question or twist, if you will. Going back to the last board meeting, Dr. Grimsley, let me preface this by saying you need to understand where you've been and where you're going. I believe in the budget process. It's just been my experience with a large agency, but so I'm trying to get caught up on some of the past history, if you will. So if the questions sound like they're a little bit out of sorts, not that. It's really for my benefit to try to get my head wrapped around the past school budget and maybe the proposed as well, or the proposed as well. I asked at the last board meeting about the $157,000 that was appropriated towards the end of this, the budget cycle. We really weren't quite sure with regards to, what was that money for? I think there were some logical explanations about that, but I want to thank you. I think that information came in today, and it appears that most of that was to pay about 10 percentage points on an 18% increase on insurance. Right. So thank you for that. You got me straight there. I also talked a little bit about vacancy savings, and I don't know if that was at the last meeting. Yep, quite certainly was. And I realize, and I'm not talking, as I preface my question, I understand there are mandates. You have instructional needs, requirements. I get that. And I know you hate unfunded mandates. I've seen those in the past. They're aggravating, and you're scraping and trying to find money to fulfill your obligation that's mandated by code from the state. But I asked this question, in this proposed budget, and maybe it's in here, thank you for I'll read this very closely. Are there any additional FTEs, not mandated, I know you have to meet that mandate, but that the school board has decided, hey, we need this position for whatever that might be, whether it be support, position at the lower level, or any position?
So at this point, I have not proposed any budget to the school board. That happens next month. What I've asked the principals and other department heads to look at is your current staffing levels, the needs of the students. What does the data say? Where are your students? Where are we struggling to meet the need? And then the principals get to work within, and yes, I have already put that out there that we have to work within our current staffing levels, and I'm not adding an additional FTE. We may shift around certain FTE positions to meet the need unless the data overwhelmingly suggests there's a huge gap and we need a support person there, or, but if we are really talking level funding from the county and this bit from the state, I mean, it's going to be, we can't add anybody, you know, so that's where preparing for the worst, you know, we're looking at it from that lens, but in our comprehensive plan, that really did outline where we were adding anything programmatically that would require staffing, and we're at the end of that, and we've reached that level, so there's nothing additionally we need to reach in that our comprehensive plan says we need. It will all be student need driven if we do.
Thank you for that. That provides us a high level of clarification. Just another follow-up question, if I can.
Sure.
So in this exercise, and you may not know the answer to this, thank you for that. I know your team is going to be working feverishly to get this information and the data. Do you anticipate any positions that were vacant being absorbed in potential budget cut or in that area?
Well, at this point, we've just sent out intent forms to all staff, and at this point, other than a few retirements we're looking at for teaching positions that will likely have to be filled to meet the teaching positions now, I don't have anyone else that is telling us now that they're leaving. At this point, our retention rate looks really, really good. So it'll give us a good handle on what we need to staff for next year. But as far as teaching positions, we always try to protect the direct instructional positions first. Anytime there's an administrative position open, we all meet as a team, who's doing what. Can anyone reasonably take on any additional duties? Is there any way? We just did that last summer with an administrative support person at central office. Instead of hiring an actual administrative level position, we doled out some of the duties and hired a support person instead. So that was an example just recently that we did, and that was our last administrative vacancy.
Thank you for that. You answered my question. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's part of the exercise that you're getting ready or have taken on and starting to put that data together. I get questions all the time about, why do they need these positions, and is there a place to cut back if not needed? I know once you get those positions and once you work feverishly and try to, and you say, well, maybe we can do without it this year or next year, it comes back to haunt you a lot of times. So I understand that, but again, dollars are hard for everybody. And so thank you for that clarification.
Supervisor Comer?
I don't think my mic is working, so I don't think I can talk. There.
Share.
Okay, hold on.
You're surrounded by mics now.
I don't have much to say at this point because a lot, for me, last year, what I heard a lot from constituents really focused on the capital improvement more so. That I think for a lot of my constituents, operational costs got confused and blended in with capital improvement costs. So I don't think anyone would argue we need to pay our teachers well. I don't think anyone would argue that small class sizes are a plus. So I like the building blocks, and I'll save more of my comments for when we talk more about the capital improvement. two things that I just want to share at this point. I don't know if it's a good time to share it or not. One is anecdotal. A colleague of mine was here at the high school today. She was she was Trade of the Month. So she's the member engagement director for the Heavy Construction Contractors Association. And she and I met for lunch afterwards, and she told me, she said, she went on and on about how lucky our kids are. And she said, it was really profound. She said, I don't think I've been in a classroom with fewer than 30 children since second grade. So there she had all of our, I think it was mostly freshmen and sophomores today, but I just wanted to pass that along, especially for those who just might forget that. The other thing I want to just mention again, I don't know if it's a good time to mention it, but since we've got it right up here on the screen, the ADN, at our last board meeting, I think it may have been Ms. Yeoman, made a really good point that ADN, why is this rests on the shoulders of entirely on the shoulders of our school system, that we all share a little bit of responsibility and community planning and just the whole big picture. So I do just want to point out that the median age in Rappahannock County is 50 years old. In the state of Virginia, it's 38 years old. I would argue, I know that this range will slide back and forth, but I'd say, the good childbearing ages are 25 to 34 years, and that's about 10% of our population, right? So when we're looking at the ADM, we have to look at the entire picture. So where I would say the school has that responsibility is all the stuff that they're trying to do, maintain, like get the good teachers, get the good administrators, secure good curriculum, and make us as competitive as we can be, and draw the other folks out here to attend our schools. So again, those are always numbers that I kind of find fascinating. I know that Rappahannock average age of 50 years has gone up 2 years since at least 2023, because I know I was really looking at those numbers in 2023. And then I'll save the rest of my comments for after we talk about the capital improvement plan.
And just a quick thought on that. I'm glad you brought that up about the community planning. I was able, and I had the privilege to go to the Planning Commission this year as they were doing some of their comprehensive plan work in the county. And I did that because, yes, they asked for data, but then, reviewing the county comprehensive plan, the schools are mentioned 91 times in the comprehensive plan, but 90 of those times it's all about just how much we cost and not about anything about why it's important to have us and why is it great to have these students and what service can we provide as the hub of the community. So I urge the Planning Commission to consider us as more of a service to the community, being here as a vital service for so many families here, and how can we build that in a meaningful way rather than just this is how much they're costing us.
Interesting point. Thank you. Looking at the survey, can you explain to me how the choices are created for the survey itself? I'm really surprised that mental health went completely off the chart. School nutrition was surprisingly not on there, and STEM just completely. So is there a brand new list every year that the parents get and others get to choose from, or how does that work?
No, it's a very, very similar list of priorities, and then there is some open-ended response. So is there anything we missed? Here's the broad categories of educating students. But what's interesting about that is we don't just take this and do nothing with it. So the fact that mental health has come up for several years in a row really focused our attention and honed in on our supports for mental health. So the fact that they didn't see it as a need means we probably met the need finally. So that's usually a positive thing. Not that it's not important, but it feels like we do have so many supports that we didn't have just a few years ago. with our partnership with Youth for Tomorrow and the behavioral specialists we now have supported by grant efforts and the MTSS work, the outpatient therapeutic services. These are all things we did not have before, and almost none of that is taxpayer money. And that was a huge need from the priority. So there's been a lot of work and effort on what we do with this.
I was hoping that was the answer. My guess is school nutrition went off the list because it's been such a focus for multiple years.
Yes.
That I think you probably got that covered.
And since we've become community eligibility provision certified, meaning every student has access to free breakfast and lunch every day,
Right.
it's probably not on the minds as a priority that we need to fund now.
Anything from COSARs?
Yes, so hope is not lost, Mr. Whitson. We're still looking at the state for some support. So Coalition of Small and Rural Schools has been a big driver in some of the state legislation over the years. They represent over 88 school districts in the state, and they do have quite a large voice at the table. A big voice in capital improvements and crumbling schools campaign, that was COSARs, that really had a big push in that, and that's why we've been seeing so many more grant dollars and capital improvement funds and bonds being advocated for. So COSARs is taking up a priority that has some interest for Rappahannock County, the economies of scale adjustment. Economies of scale is JLARC recommendation 13 from their school funding formula study that they did 2 years ago. They put it initially an economies of scale adjustment for school districts that had under 2,000 to try to mitigate that gap on what it actually costs to educate and what the funding formula fails to do for those districts. If you read the JLARC report, you can really see the nitty-gritty on how that works and why schools that fail to achieve economies of scale do cost more per pupil in expenditures, and why, like those positions that, you may only get funding for a half of them, but you need the whole person and the whole job. So those are issues that COSARS is taking up. They worked with the coalition, the Appalachian Coalition Network, to formulate some additional advocacy efforts and put together an infographic, which I just saw this morning. It was just, so that is being pushed to be a budget amendment as a short-term Band-Aid on the funding formula issue for small and rural schools. Should that pass, and the adjustment goes with the calculus that JLARC suggested, that would yield about a $1.4 million increase in state revenue for Rappahannock County.
If I remember correctly, that impacts about 40 different schools, not just
Yes,
Rappahannock County.
currently it's at 44. If the amendment shifts to under 2,700 rather than 2,000 students, then that will increase to about 53 districts, which has a very strong coalition voice in Richmond. So we're hopeful that that gains a lot of traction, and there is a lot of push behind that.
There are many people that heard one size does not fit all in Richmond during VACO Lobby Day, I can tell you that.
Excellent.
And then the one thing, I just happened to get a report on Laurel Ridge stats enrollment from 2024 to 2025, and you may not have seen this, but we went down over 5 years about 24% in enrollment in Laurel Ridge, and that really surprised me given trades and everything. So I don't know if trades is part of that. You can answer.
Well, I would need to look at the report because it may not be counting the workforce students.
Okay. That really surprised me. So
It is counting the work. Okay.
I'm hoping we can boost those numbers again.
Well, and it depends too. I'd like to see the report as well, because a lot of shifts in that arena for dual enrollment, what counts as the universal study certificate, how we're supposed to meet that need, how the college is. I know it did have quite a few ramifications on many different programs that we utilize, not just Laurel Ridge, but Germanna and other community college systems are dealing with. So it'll be interesting to see that report.
And I would just add, enrollment in higher education is down.
Across the board.
Yeah, in many places, yeah.
All right, that's all I had. Want to jump into capital improvement?
Okay.
Actually, before we do that, so I just wanted to ask if we knew our status on our that admin analysis that we were kicking off, is it due within the next month?
It is, and that will be one of the agenda items in the March meeting with the budget proposal. We would like to incorporate what they find, if to the extent we can.
So it's good. It's good for the supervisors and the public to know that the school board kicked off a study of our own district and how it is that we're built out at the top compared to similar school districts across the state. So we're looking forward to getting that report to tell us, you know, do we have too many in one particular area or not? And so we initiated that study of ourselves. The other thing I wanted to say was COSARS stands for Coalition of Small and Rural Schools. And it's good for people to know so that you're not getting stonewalled by acronyms.
You know when that study will be available?
March. At the March meeting, we're going to release it and present to the board, as well as the budget proposal from the superintendent's desk, and of course Stacy Witt. And we'll go through what they said, and what they did cross-reference us in multiple ways. We've been doing extensive work with them over the last couple of months. They asked for all of our job descriptions, all of our salary scales, what our hiring philosophy is, internal controls, financials, and they run a and what's interesting is it's the same folks that were subcontracted back in 2014 by the county to do our study. So they were actually really excited to see any of the differences that had been made and looked at. So that'll be interesting to share.
It's been 12 years since we've had an outside look.
And where would you see that other report? Is it somewhere or in old files, the 2014?
So the 2014 report was prior to me being superintendent. The superintendent at that time, and it is issued as, they're called working papers of the superintendent, so they are confidential internal, because they do dive deep into each position. I asked them this time not to do that so much, so it's super identifiable, but please give us a really good broad stroke of those, because I do intend to release the entire thing to everybody to read what they want to do. And the 2014, now that it's been so many years out, I'm sure we can put that up too for comparison.
Is there a summarization of it maybe?
Sure, I have no problem doing that.
Great.
Ms. Donnelly, before we move on to capital, I just have one more question for the superintendent.
Sure.
A question came up with a constituent the other day in a different context, but it relates to grants generally.
Okay.
And since grants came up just a short time ago in our discussion tonight, I had talked to you about that mental health related initiative that has a brick and mortar presence in the town of Washington, and you mentioned it was a grant funded program. And what some of my constituents ask me is when the school system accepts a grant and it's a one-time grant, meaning for a set duration of time, but let's say the programming related to that grant becomes very beneficial and attractive and worth continuing to invest in. I'm just wondering if you could give me examples of grant programs that turned out to be, for lack of a better description, one time as opposed to recurring from a funding perspective, and the extent to which you have a policy internally to determine when a one-time or limited duration grant lands in the school and you continue to fund it beyond the funding parameters of the grant itself. Meaning, if it's a non-recurring grant and it brings benefit, does that necessarily mean you absorb it and then it becomes part of your ongoing budget?
Great question. No, that's a really good one, because grants are part of our bread and butter and how we make things work around here a lot of times. So when we're looking at grant applications, one-time grant project funds are always those that we try to funnel toward things like maybe a beautification project or the high school courtyard, for example, or something that's going to be one-time dollars. If it's a recurring expense that requires an FTE or support services, we always go for those as multi-year projects. And then we can test the validity of it. And you always have a sustainability build out for those grants and part of the evaluation. So there are several grants we have now that fund some people that are working in the division. And if they want to continue that funding, They know they have to do a great job and report really great results to keep the funding stream active. Commit to Be Fit is one of the examples of that. That's been funded for 12 years now. Because of the impact that they've been able to show and the wonderful support from the PATH Foundation to keep that going and on the many facets it has. So, but the idea is, to your point, should that funding dry up and we don't have another, and it's non-SOQ, we don't fund it out of local operating. That's just one of our general understandings, unless it's a program where you could direct instruction or support personnel that you know you'll need beyond an SOQ to support, in which case we do try to find grants that may defray that for some time if we can, and we always go for those multi-year if we can.
Thank you. You articulated your answer far better than I phrased my question, but you're smarter than me and you figured out what I was trying to ask, so thank you. Okay.
Okay, capital? Shall we talk about facilities and capital needs?
We shall, please.
Ms. Jewell, this is your show. You just direct me to where you
Oh,
would
I'm
like me
sorry.
to start.
Can you please start with this page, Dr. Grimsley?
This one?
No, the table.
Is that at the top?
It is at the top.
Thank you.
Okay, you're getting that. I'm actually
It's a
going
large
to move over
document.
here to this podium because it allows me to see
Yes.
if people are, kind of grimacing or whatever they're doing. And also Dr. Bolt is over here and she's key to this conversation.
See how big it is for you guys.
All right, thank you. So before I get into this and overwhelm you with lots and lots of numbers and how we're going to fund these very large numbers, let me first say that this couldn't have come together without the help from Dr. Bolt and all the information that she provided, and Dr. Grimsley as well, and Ms. Witt. I'm sure that she contributed to this as well. And on the county side, he's not here tonight, but Gary Curry also contributed to this. So it was very much a team effort to pull together not only the school's piece of the CIP, but the county's piece too that we're not going to focus on tonight. So overall, the way the CIP is set up, and I'm sorry to all the Board of Supervisors members who've already heard every bit of this at your last meeting, the school board members have not heard this yet. The way that this CIP is set up, and really any CIP is set up, is it is at least a 5-year plan, and our plan, as it's our first CIP, is a 5-year plan. Some are set up in as many as 10 years. That's too far out for us to go as we're embarking on this. The first year of any CIP really coincides with the budget year that we're working on. So the first year that you see here is fiscal 27. That is the budget year that we're about to work on. The next 4 years in the plan, fiscal 28 to 31, are just a plan. We're showing you what we expect the capital needs to be in each of these 5 years. We are advising you how we recommend funding those in the first year, and then what that's likely to look like in the 4 out years. The way this page is set up, the top part, and you can see this better in the printed version than you can on the screen there. The top portion is the expense portion. So you're going to see there all the projects and the expected costs in each year. And then the bottom portion is how we plan to pay for that and all the sources of revenue that we have pieced together. I'm sorry, Dr. Grimsley, you were on the correct page. There you go. Thank you. All the pieces of revenue or grants or what have you that we have pieced together as our finance plan for these capital projects. So before I get into all the financing, it seems appropriate for you to have knowledge of what the projects themselves are, and there's nobody better to talk about that than Dr. Bolt.
Hello. Just Board of Supervisors, Bonnie is wonderful to work with. She is so easy and we click. So I'm sure the school board has been given, you've been given the engineering study we had done. We had an engineer come out and study our HVAC. And within that study, he came up with a priority 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is set up where we hit priority 1 first and then work our way down. But the first major thing, Mr. Settle, is the roof. And we were lucky enough to receive a grant from VDEM for $450,000. And the estimated cost is $750, and of course, it's an estimated cost because prices have gone up, steel has gone up. But I've actually got the RFP together and put the bid notice in the paper. It will come out this week, so we can actually get a firm number on that. So we'll have that by, I think it's March 13th. So hopefully we'll be through this process enough to move forward. The other thing is our HVAC. It's significant. We have boilers that are from the early 80s at the high school and the late 80s here. We had a main boiler line break this winter, which caused havoc on one wing of our high school that needs to be replaced. So again, it was all priority 1s. And if you have any questions, if you can't find your engineering report, I'm happy to share it again, because it really details what's in there and what the priorities are. Then the next major thing is the sand bed at the high school. And for those who aren't familiar with the sand bed, that's our sewage treatment. We have a lagoon here and a sand bed at the high school. And if you'd have asked me 20 years ago if I even know what these things were, I would have told you no. But I do now. And the EPA has come out with different effluent ammonia levels. We meet the standard at the lagoon. We currently do not meet the standard at the high school. We've contracted with an engineer who specializes in sewer treatment plants, and working with Pamela Parker, the plant manager at the Rappahannock Water Sewer Authority, we are looking at ways to do that, and we don't know yet the total costs. So I went worst case scenario on this. If we have to take all that sand up and do something different, if we just need to tweak it, it could be anywhere. I mean, it was a guesstimate, which I went to Pamela Parker and said, what's the worst case scenario? So that's a biggie, and that has to be done by 2029. That's when the law takes effect, and we have to be compliant. I don't know if you've ever used these restaurant rooms up front. The doors are this big. We have a couple of staff members that are in wheelchairs, and we really need to be ADA compliant. We did one bathroom on the back hall, but if that's occupied, they have to, if they're down, and they are down this hall, they have to go all the way to the primary wing. So the idea is to open those up, make them one stalls with all the necessary requirements, and it doesn't come cheap. It just doesn't. So I think that's an important one that we need to do for our staff and to meet compliance. And within that, we also this year had to do an ADA study on our schools. That was mandated in July, and it had to be done by November 1. But they gave us nothing to use to do a form. So I went to the National ADA Compliance and was able to get a form. And we did pretty well. There were some tweaks we need to do, but that would also be included in that. Some extra handrails, mirrors are a little too high, they need to be lowered, that type of thing, nothing outrageous. Our auditorium. Our auditorium is used a lot by the community. We have the Lions Club coming this month to do their talent show, which is well attended. We have the Scrabble School that just signed up for November for an event there. We need to, our sound and our lighting is not up to standards. And we've gotten by the best we could, and there was some questions. I did have an inspection done of the rigging, there was some safety, so we just absorbed that and for safety reasons. But that's also in the capital improvement. I don't think anything's really been done major. Maybe updated the board and a couple of things. I mean, not since I've been here in the last 15 years. When it was pretty old when I came, the lights are probably Some of them are still original from when that was built.
I was wondering about the high school auditorium. Is there anything around ADA compliance?
We need that
We do.
because when we put in the new seating in there, we need that because we're grandfathered in. We have a lift if necessary, if we have a student in a wheelchair, to be able to get them on stage. And that's the only thing we can do because the slope would be so long that would go halfway down to make anything that would take up quite a bit. And it's only like 300 people seating in there, but we do meet compliance. The interior doors and exterior doors. So Rappahannock High School, the main part was built in 1959. We still have exterior doors from 1959. I was able, with the money coming from state, to do the main hallway doors. There's still several more to be done. And here, with the fund, $35,000 I got this year, I was able to do partial of the doors here. So we need to replace, for safety and security and aesthetics, interior doors and the exterior doors. And it's not, especially the exterior doors, it's not cheap. But the way doors are made are completely different where they made in 1969, 1959 for safety. So that's, I think that's a pretty significant thing to put on our, one of the other things I do is crisis management here, and I'm always looking for ways to better. But if you go around the schools, especially the high school, some of those doors, they need to be replaced. The restrooms in the eighth grade wing, west wing, whatever they call it now, it's always going to be the eighth grade wing to me. That was built in 2000. And those bathrooms have not been touched since then. So those bathrooms are 25 years old. And they're showing their age. So it's time to update those. Classrooms. We had an influx of funds and we were able to do some exterior doors. And we went to any classroom that had asbestos first and remodeled those because that was a have to. Now we're down on the primary wing and the eighth grade wing. This was, Stacy helped me, early 90s?
The kindergarten side?
Yeah. 90s there and then 2000. So these are about 30 years old and they haven't been touched. And those are 25 years old. So it's time to update our classrooms. They still have carpet in there. Some of the classrooms still have carpet from 30 years ago. Yes, it is time. I mean, my guys, the custodians, they take such good care and they clean it, but it's like anything, it only lasts so long. And then last but not least, of course, buses. We are in a very good position now that we're not requesting any buses this year. It won't be till fiscal year 2028. I didn't get too deep in the HVAC because you've seen the study, but if you have any questions, please let me know. And can I just say on a personal level, capital improvement going from 10 to 2 makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Nothing?
Dr. Bolt, before the meeting, we were talking about your expanded deployment of defibrillators. And this is more just a comment for your awareness. I'm working with Darren Stevens and Stephanie Clark and Janie Jenkins in the Sheriff's Department, and we're hopefully going to integrate into our computer-aided dispatch system pulse point software technology that will hopefully allow us to map every AED in the county through our dispatch system, and then expand the functionality of that mapping to a new area where pulse point is actually pushing out alerts to people to tell them where to get an AED to go to a cardiac arrest.
Well, that's fantastic. We were talking about, we purchased defibrillators they're in every school, they're in the bus shop, they're in the school board office, they're on the soccer field, they're everywhere, so that it's readily available, because I mean, that's just, we were talking about the ease of use of it. You start it, it tells you what to do. So it's pretty incredible.
So I just want to make sure that you're part of that whole
That's great.
discussion. And
Because
I
if
think,
somebody's at the Quickie Mart, I mean, we could be, if we knew they needed it,
yeah,
we could be right there.
That's what the app does.
we're adding one to the Quickie Mart and to Settles as part of our kind of public, Debbie and I are leading this effort to get more publicly deployed defibrillators out there. But as I was mentioning to you at the outset of the meeting, we've had 2 recent great cardiac arrest saves in the county. I mean, very recent in the last few weeks. And so I really appreciate your initiative in this regard. And I just want to make sure that we take full advantage of your defibrillators within the school system.
Of course, we're a community, we do it together.
Integrate them into our county system. So thank you for all of that.
Any questions?
I'm just wondering with the doors, does the sheriff's office or anyone get involved from if you have an incident, how the doors will work? And
It's pretty standard. It's because now they're making them, and it doesn't matter what we get, we usually put the film, anti-bullet film on it, but it's made so that there's only one handle instead of 2, so nobody can lock the outside. It's pretty standard now when it comes to crisis management, what has happened, but I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone to make sure we're getting the latest and greatest.
I just want to make sure everybody knows how to work them if something happens.
Well, they all have access also. The sheriff's office has access to our schools in an emergency. They're issued the fobs.
To the fob.
And then certain people have the master keys, and there's one in the lockbox. We want them to come in if something's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bolt also leads quarterly crisis management plan team meetings, which also the sheriff's office and other members of emergency services come to that meeting too. So we do walk through areas of the crisis plan, infiltration, reunification, all those pieces of how we would respond. And then there's also tabletop trainings and full extent trainings.
Which I was working on today with EMS to create a tabletop for our admin. We've done 3 so far. We did many tabletops at our cabinet meetings. This is a full-fledged. And the Virginia Department of Emergency Management has come out several times to work with our staff and walk us through it. So we're just moving right on.
Wonderful.
It's the scariest job I do.
Gotta have it though. Another non-SOQ unfunded position you need. So Dr. Bolt very graciously took the reins on school safety and crisis management for us, on top of technology and facilities and maintenance and everything else.
And Dr. Bolt, thank you for, sorry, it's hard to see where the voice is
I'm like, where's
coming
it coming
from the speaker. So thank you for putting this together, and Ms. Jewell. You know, it's interesting when you look across here, we're at almost $2.5 million in capital improvements in 27, and then 1.25 for 2 years in a row, and then we dropped to, you know, well under $500,000.
And we're doing that based on that HVAC, the priorities.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're addressing these things, I think, because I think they need to be addressed. I'm curious what your budget's been the last several years.
Well, last year was $35,000. I was able to do the fire alarm in here because of equipment that I sold on our online auction. So we
That's how
make
we
money
fund our
from
company.
selling old computer equipment to redo the fire alarm in here.
Yeah.
The year before that, it was $200,000 for the last 5 years, Stacy?
Yes.
And then it was, before that, we had a pay-go with the county. And so we would fill out the form and then they would fund it. When we started getting the 200,000, we kind of just absorbed it and did what we could.
Okay, okay. Yeah, these all are projects we need to do, and I'm glad we're doing them. So I guess my question is this sort of a delay in things we should have done, or is this just the perfect storm and 3 things hit the same year?
No, it's a delay, and I think many small public schools do this. You Band-Aid it and keep it going. Now, we have done some major things, like all the bards in the elementary school, they were 30 years old, and we replaced those with state funds. We've been able to get some grants and do the VRF system at the high school. That's the front hallway and the back hallway
they have what's called a VRF system, and it's basically like a home, but it divides it through 3 rooms. So we've been able to do as we go.
Yeah.
And I've done a capital improvement every year, and listed things. But if it's not funded, you just bump it to the next year.
Yep, yeah, and I know Ms. Jewell's going to walk us through the funding.
Ms. Jewell, yes, I have high hope.
We'll hope this 1% thing comes through, hopefully it does. But I guess my last question is, when you come to to these joint budget meetings and we're trying to figure out the budget, and maybe this is a question for Bonnie, but does the Board of Supervisors allocate money to the schools and they split it between operational expenses and capital improvements, or do we assign certain funds for capital improvements?
Don't say no.
I'm gonna say no as well. So up until now, there hasn't been a significant focus. There hasn't been any focus on school capital projects. There hasn't been much focus at all on the county's capital needs. There's been discussion about the courthouse for quite a few years, but a plan like this has not been put in front of either the school board or the Board of Supervisors for consideration. We have struggled to fund, and I say we, I'm not on any board, but I'm part of this team, so you're gonna hear me say we a lot. We have struggled to fund the school budget. We have struggled to fund the county budget for a number of years. So it has been difficult in a staff role to put forward a capital plan that has multi-million-dollar projects in it. Recently, at one of the budget conversations at a Board of Supervisors meeting, Chair Donahue said, one of the things that I want you to do is be blatant about the CIP needs. And that's what this is. We are being blatant. We are being collectively blatant about the CIP needs at the school. We are being blatant about the county's CIP needs. So that's what you see here. It's not going to be easy to do this, but this is being blatant. So to answer the question that you asked, Dr. Bolt, no, there hasn't been a here's school board, here's funding for capital, and here's school board, here's funding for operations. It's been really difficult to provide the funding that has been needed for operations.
And understanding that operational difference, because I think Ms. Homer said that too, there's been that confusion between, what is operating funds and what can be used for capital. We do have a small amount of infrastructure modernization state funds we can use for some of those capital needs, but if you look at the county budget and the school budget funds, there is a capital fund that can house dollars for school capital projects that's sat at zero for forever. But that fund can actually carry over funds, whereas a school operating fund, we cannot carry over any funds year to year.
Is that state fund this 200,000 that comes every year, and is that set? Does it go up with inflation, or is it set by the state?
Set by the state, and in fact, that's one of the few state budget lines of revenue that they implemented a floor so that it doesn't run through our typical LCI process. If it had, we'd be getting about $24,000 out of that for capital needs. So they said no school district in Virginia can receive less than $200,000. So that's why we get the 200, and that's why it doesn't change.
And when last year you talked about 35,000,
Buses.
it went to buses. We can use it for buses also.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Correct.
I'm understanding.
So moving into the funding side of this, Dr. Grimsley, could you collapse that just a little bit?
I can.
And scroll down to the bottom portion of that page that shows the funding.
Sure.
And thank you. So I'm not going to go through this in the order of those lines. I'm going to talk about the things that we know first. And the first one is a great segue into what you were just talking about, Dr. Grimsley, and that's the $200,000 a year from the state for school capital needs. That funding has been used for buses. That funding has been used for operations, the portion that could be used for it. But here in this plan, we are saying that $200,000 each year is going to be dedicated to the school's capital. So that line item is a known item on there. The other line item that is a known line item is the Virginia Department of Emergency Management shelter grant for the roof. We collectively applied for a grant from VDEM for a metal roof since this is the county's second primary shelter. And VDEM recently told us that we will receive that $450,000 grant. So we're very pleased about that. That means, however, that the remaining $304,000 will be needed in local funds to pay for that. And so at the last supervisors meeting, Mr. Curry and I were asked to come back at the March meeting to have a budget appropriation and budget adjustment on that agenda for the board's consideration of local funding in fiscal 26 to allow for that project to move ahead. And we will do that.
Thank you.
we intentionally have on here a line item that says bonds, Virginia Public Schools Authority. All the way across, that line item is 0. This plan expects $0 in bonds to be issued for school capital projects. And here's why. Because in the General Assembly this year, as was in the General Assembly last year, and I believe the year before that, are multiple bills to allow for localities to put on a referendum question, a 1% local sales tax that is restricted to only school capital needs. The last 2 years that legislation has passed, the General Assembly has gone to the governor's desk and has been vetoed by the governor. This governor has said that if a similar law gets to her desk, if a similar legislation gets to her desk, she will sign it. There are multiple bills in the General Assembly. Those are kind of being whittled down and combined. When we first started putting this together, I was anticipating the language that I saw at that time to allow, if a referendum like that passed here and the Board of Supervisors authorized staff to move forward with that, I was expecting that the language within those bills was going to allow us to front money in fiscal 27 for schools capital projects and then reimburse the general fund using the revenue that would come from the 1% local sales tax. That amount each year, that 1% local sales tax is there in fiscal 28, $1,175,000, and then increases each year thereafter. I believe it's a 3% increase, up to almost $1.3 million in fiscal 31. Over that 4-year time frame, that's $4.8 million in revenue that would be used for the school's capital projects that we would not have to borrow for. And to be clear about what costs we are not having to pay if we are able to fund those projects with that cash instead of borrowing for them. That's actually a net there of $4.6 million. Issuing $4.6 million in bonds for school capital over a 20-year period would cost $2.3 million in interest costs alone. So we are avoiding $2.3 million if we are able to advance this initiative, put it on the ballot, if the voters approve it, and then the Board of Supervisors authorizes us to move forward with that. So that should be on the table from the start in terms of everybody being on the same playing field with what that means. So back to this idea of the general fund fronting the money in fiscal 27 and then repaying itself back and doing other projects in the years going forward. As these bills are getting whittled down in the General Assembly, I'm anticipating that payback is not going to be able to happen. So what we are likely to have to do, and I have talked to Dr. Bolt about this as well, is pick up that whole 5-year plan for HVAC and shift it out 1 year. That would then align the beginning of that HVAC initiative to fall in place with fiscal 28, where that 1% local sales tax would begin bringing in revenue. So that's the funding plan. And I keep saying plan because this is all a plan. You know, as she gets bids for these projects, things will change. Some will change for the better, some will change for the worse, and we'll have to shift this around again. But just knowing this information puts us in a far better position than we were before not knowing any of it. So with that, I'll take any questions you have on the finance side.
Can I just clarify that one of those last points you made? So it looks like we may not be able to pay the general fund back, depending on what the legislation ends at.
Yes, and let me be clear about that. I appreciate the question, thank you. So it would be not being able to, once that sales tax comes online in fiscal '28, not being able to pay ourselves back for the fiscal '27 advance. We would be able to pay ourselves back for any general fund revenue we fronted the schools thereafter, but just not using the fiscal '28 to pay back the fiscal '27 advance. That's why I'm suggesting that if the language goes forward as I expect it will in the General Assembly and we are not able to do that, that we pick up that whole HVAC project and shift it out 1 year so that then the project and the funding from the 1% local tax aligns.
Okay, yep, that makes sense, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that question.
I just want to say thank you for being blatant. I feel like for my 6 years, we have seen Dr. Bolt's list and just thought it was magically appearing and didn't truly understand that that was a wish list and not really happening. Some things were happening, but a lot of it just couldn't because there was no money appropriated for the cause. And so at least now we know what is needed. We can make an educated decision on where the money goes and where the money comes from. And I really hope the two bills in Richmond surprise us and come together in a better way, but
Me too.
I agree with you. Yep. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. I was hopeful when I first saw the language and now my hope is dwindling.
Yeah, I would just, I want to thank you as well. I love that we have a plan and kind of what Supervisor Donahue just said, maybe there had never been a perceived formal ask for some of these improvements. So I really like that now it is out there for all to see. Again, last year during our budget season, a lot of people spoke to me about transparency and about planning. And I think in this case, transparent and blatant are synonymous. I think that is what, I would hear, we are being transparent. Well, maybe we were being transparent, but maybe we weren't being blatant. So I really appreciate that this, it's done so well. It really is. So to say I'm excited is not quite right because of those numbers. But I've said before, I really like strategic plans and I like seeing what needs to be done and how it's going to get done. So I really appreciate the work all of you did.
I'm going to plead ignorance here because I think I'm the youngest one of Shannon, Stacy down there maybe, but I'm going to ask some questions just because I don't understand it totally and I want to make sure I do. This 1% sales tax referendum has to get passed first by the House or by the governor, and then it would have to go on to our November ballot. It have to get approved by our county or
Yes.
the statewide.
Our county?
Our county. And that 1% sales tax comes from the state, not just from our locality?
Just our locality, correct?
So
Just our
it's
locality.
So it's a 1% tax increase?
Yeah. Yes,
Am I
it is.
understanding that correctly?
Yes.
But we think that people will take this, are okay with this because it goes directly to the schools? Is that, it seems like everybody here is thinking that this is going to go through. And if it doesn't, what's our plan then for that 4.8 million that we don't have?
That's a great question.
Okay, I'm not dumb. All right, thanks.
No, ma'am. That's a great question, and that's why if we don't have this, I don't, and Dr. Bolt can answer this if she feels differently, I don't see these projects going away. The HVAC needs are there. The other needs are there. And so the alternative to this.
The big B there?
Pardon me?
Is that big B question right there? That is bonds?
Yes.
Could be. Yes, bonds. And so, again, you know, that those bonds come with a cost, and the cost is the interest, and that is that $2.3 million. $2.3 million in a cost over and above the principal that we would be collectively paying, and I've assumed that at 20 years.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Stress, this is sales tax, not real estate tax.
Right. Correct.
So this is, you know, this isn't, yes, we would bear some of this burden, but how many people made an online purchase this year? I want to see a show of hands. Not this year, this weekend. You know?
Valentine's Day.
Surely I wasn't the only one. Visitors to our county who come and spend in the various places. So it's real important to remember.
That makes sense.
This is not real estate tax. This would be a sales tax.
So this would be some public outreach to let people understand that and realize that this is what's happening.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
And I think that would need to be a collective initiative between the county and the schools to get that information out there, frequently asked questions. Lots of good work is needed in that area. And I also appreciate your question, because one of the things I wrote down when Supervisor Comer was talking is one of the things I keep neglecting to talk about when I'm talking about this is at last year's budget public hearing and other public budget meetings related to the budget, speakers repeatedly said to the board that they wanted to see revenue from sources other than real estate and personal property. And again, I don't anticipate the need for these projects is going to go away. And so this is a way to address that, assuming that it goes through all the necessary approval channels. This is a way to address that in a way other than real estate or personal property.
I have a question about that. I mean, you were talking about deferring all of this study by one additional year. I know that some of the study, when we got the more in-depth report on it, will actually save us in efficiency and in save money. You know, we have quite a few systems that are working inefficiently, that are like valves that aren't turning on and off the way that they should. And I feel like it would be, if I were a supervisor, I would, and as a fiscal responsible person, I don't think it makes sense to keep our window open and keep the heat on and keep on spending more. I mean, you know, sort of in a metaphorical sense, as it were. I just feel like if we could,
You're absolutely correct.
The things that could save us some energy, give some energy savings, and not just say, okay, it's zero.
And we've used more heating fuel this year than every year that I've done.
And now we understand why.
Right. Well, it's been very cold. I mean, it's been unusually cold. But yes, especially at the high school, we have it set up here where it's on a control and it alternates between two. Up there, it just operates till the outside temp gets a certain degree. We don't have the controls to control it.
Yeah, because they're.
So you're absolutely correct. It would save money in the long run to do it. But I can also understand the apprehension of the Board of Supervisors because they're rolling the dice that they're going to get that money. And I don't know, can they recoup it if it's spent in 1 year and send it back?
That's not determined yet. It will depend on what the final language is.
Yeah, so, I mean, I understand both sides.
I mean, I would just love to see maybe teasing out some things that we could actualize some savings from and not just keep on burning extra fuel for some of those.
Well, it said we don't get anything this year but the roof. We are still going to get that $200,000. And so I guess that's working down what do we want to hit first if we have that $200,000.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a good question to think about prioritizing and think about.
Of course.
And also when we think
it's
about
tough to prioritize when there's a lot. It really is. It's
we're
very
always
tough.
Surprised if we've missed school because the heat doesn't work.
We haven't missed school this year.
But we have other years.
It's been really cold this year.
And so just
don't jinx
like,
me.
I just don't want to be here, you know.
Next year, at this time, saying we had to close school because the boiler
We
was
missed school
working.
because we've deferred this necessary.
I agree 100%. So I guess it's going to be, let's see how it plays out. We'll have 200,000 and we'll put it to the highest need is what I would suggest. Well, and having this plan, to everyone's point, I think we all agree is super, super important. The Code of Virginia only requires that the school puts together this 5-year projected plan of capital needs that the schools have, which we do every year and pass on to the county, but we are not the school board is not an appropriating body or a revenue generator or an allocation body, so we can't fund those projects. So every year when we're putting that together, that is for consideration at the county level. But now we're formally asking, so yes, consider yourself asked and asked and asked again in multiple ways that please fund these projects. And I'm hoping that regardless of the 1%, because that is going to take a lift from all facets to be able to really campaign and educate community about this, because anytime we hear about it, any type of tax increase is not really received very well. So there is going to be a lot of educating, but it would be great, and this is a more formal ask, and the board can, you know, say what you will too, the school board on this behalf, but that the supervisors do take a very firm stance on capital and say, you know, these are our choices about, you know, this has to happen. It is not going to go away. The buildings are not going to get newer. The age process doesn't work that way. So taking a firm stance on this is going to happen, this is our plan. So it's either going to happen through, if we can get this 1%, or if it's going to be through bonds or whichever way, but it's going to have to be funded, and here's what we plan to fund each year. And that's not a role the school board can play, nor I can either. I can just we can present you with what is needed, but.
I know Supervisor Settle has wanted to say something for a bit, so.
Yeah, real quickly, I'll keep it short. I know we're getting late in the evening. Just a couple things regarding the grant for the school. I want to commend whoever was involved with that grant. I had an opportunity to look behind the curtain a little bit a couple weeks ago with regards to that grant, and it received
I just got the quote.
very high marks, and they came from someone that knows. So that's a good thing with the roof. Much like John said earlier, we got to fix it. We got to fix it. I'm from this seat. I'm committed to having the conversation, whatever we have to do to get this roof fixed. So good job on the grant. I know Bonnie was heavily involved, but she's always so humble and quick to point out anybody who may have had any remotely involved with that. The door replacement, it's interesting, 1959 doors at the high school, right? Maybe we can sell those to some of the alumni and gain some money, but I don't know.
That's a great idea.
Like the gymnasium with your name up there, you know, you got a little brick you pay something for. But yeah, the safety, when you speak to that, and Chair Donahue hit on exactly where my mind immediately went to, having taught active shooter training in schools and other government buildings, and having responded to more than I want to talk about. But it's extremely important. I guess my question is that cost for all the doors? Because
and when I got the quote, that was for interior and exterior doors. Exterior doors are very expensive. They just are what they are. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good, because you can't teach two ways when it comes to environmental design or interior design with doors. Oh, when you get here, we got to do this. Oh, we get here, we got to do this. You're creating a failure point, period.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad to hear that. I guess we'll see what the bid is, but 1959 doors is, again,
We've got 69 here, so only 10 years newer.
yeah, that's as well. CIP plan is excellent, but I would caution, or maybe not so much caution. You know, we're talking about school board needs here, and all of these, can find themselves in the top 3 priorities. You know, however you look at it. But you know, we have other entities that be competing for dollars as well. And you know, and I look at our county buildings, and you know, the envelope of those buildings, and the TLC that's needed there. So we're going to be facing some other needs in some other areas and outside of school. So, and I know you're aware of that, but, you know, you're working in your world, you're really concentrating.
It's my world, and I understand. My world's the most important.
I mean, it just is, because
I'd like
it's
to
my
choose
job.
one, but I don't have that luxury right now. So, thank you for the work there. The CIP plan is just, I'm used to seeing those guys. Great. And it also serves as an educational piece for the public. It'll be posted, and we mentioned at the last board meeting about a promotional exercise, and I like the idea of the schools and the board doing that together regarding the 1% tax. If it's passed, November's around the corner, we'll be facing cold weather again before we know it. So we'll see pretty quickly how this is going to unfold. I know it's a tight timeline, but it'll give us an opportunity if the governor signs it. Looks like that's going to happen. And we got to get to work in educating the Rappahannock citizens to answer those questions with regards to where do we find additional money outside of raising real estate property tax. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anything else? Ms. Carmel? Anything?
Are we going to get to talk again?
Yes, it's on the agenda.
I'll save my last
After
comment
public
really,
comment, I think.
Talk all night long.
All right, do you want to go into public comment?
Comment.
Yep. All right. At this time, we're going to open up public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up and give us your name and, I don't know, do you guys do district?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, name and district, and let us know. We're going to keep it to about 3 minutes per person, please.
All right, I'm going to say one thing. Well, because I did this job 16 years ago, and I
Who
was
are
at-
you, ma'am?
Oh, sorry, I'm Cole Johnson, and I'm the Piedmont District. I always forget that, because I technically think I'm Stonewall Hawthorne. But anyway, I did this job. I'm back in a job that I had 16 years ago, and I've went to this meeting, and I thought when I was coming in here, I was like, oh, Lord, it's going to be tough. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, because it was very contentious, as you remember, Wes, very contentious. And this is just wonderful. You know, I feel very supported, and as a member of this community, and to see this plan, thank you. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you all for serving.
Thank you.
Ann Yeoman, Piedmont. I finally remembered to introduce myself. I want to go way back to the beginning of the meeting when somebody brought up the comment about the ADM, and I think it was Supervisor Comer, essentially about our aging population. And having gone to most, I missed the Amosville one, comprehensive plan public hearings, there seemed to be an all or nothing kind of attitude. No development, or what's going to look like Loudoun County or whatever. I'm wondering, would it be a useful exercise for the Board of Supervisors and the school board and the Planning Commission, or some designated people from them, to actually think about all of that put together? Because I understand that there's supposed to be a draft of the comprehensive plan this month. Maybe he'll have it, I don't know. I don't even know who's doing it. But it might be a good thing to think about. How do all these dots really connect? Not just around, but that's a 5-year plan. So this is a 5-year plan. So would it make sense to think about all these things together? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Not seeing anybody else jumping up. We'll go ahead and close public comment, and I will open it up to board member comments at this time. Supervisor Jenna?
Sure. I appreciate the meeting, and it's great that there isn't the tension here, but this is the first one. Cold, so we still have a little bit of time. I think we'll get through this. One thing that was said tonight really stuck out to me. That was when Mr. Settle said, dollars are always hard. I think that's the case. It's always difficult to figure these things out. I hope that we never leave you with $35,000 in your capital budget again. It's easy for me to say because I wasn't on the board at that time, and there was a lot of heat that was coming from different directions. But I think this is a very solid plan that helps us to think about capital improvements in a way that's more sustainable and doesn't sort of starve things. I do think, to Mr. Whitson's point, a lot of the questions I get have to do with operating expenses, not capital expenses. I don't think anybody's saying the school doesn't really need a roof. It's okay if it leaks, you know, or the boilers are fine, don't worry about it. I think we've got to fund those projects, they're not going away. I think a lot of the questions really come with down to operating expenses, and we've got to make sure we're separating those when we're talking about the 1% sales tax increase. I think that's a way that we can help to sell this to the community. These are projects that must be done. So,
Mr. Whitson? No? Supervisor Settle?
I've said enough, I think. Thank you.
Supervisor Comer?
Yes, so I'll just finish, quoting Chairman Mills again, and he says he quoted someone else. We will do the best we can, and they will do the best they can. And I think everyone at this table we are all keenly aware of the challenges that we have. Many of which we've waited probably too long to address. So I think that's important. Also, I know in years past, people would question, and I'm going to put in air quotes, return on investment in terms of our students and the education. And that always weighed on me a little bit because I was like, that's kind of not fair. And someone recently said to me, and I certainly won't share who, but I would say as a generational person from a person from a generational family in Rappahannock said that they were kicking around some ideas and just really thinking about things. And they said, a long time ago, when people had probably less money than some of us have today, they paid taxes and designed these buildings and built these buildings and paid for these buildings. So when I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the capital improvements needed, not just within our schools, across the county, I think in terms like what those people must be thinking about their return on investment, and wonder what they must be thinking. You are letting, those are my tax dollars that you are letting reach a point that they probably shouldn't have reached. So that's, those are my comments. That's what I leave you with. I think we owe it to all that came before us to take care of what they did for us. So, and yeah, I appreciate that it wasn't contentious, this meeting.
And I just want to say thank you, and thank you for a year of some of us getting together and talking through the budget, talking through your website, talking through transparency. I really do feel like we were heard, and sure, there's more to do, but I feel like it was a good approach, and I hope we will continue to do that. And I know I owe someone a meeting that I hope we can figure out pretty soon. So I'll leave that with you, Dr. Grimsley, because you're a key player in that. But thank you very much.
All right, we should roll through the school board members and see if there's anything. Can we start with you, Ms. McCool? Anything?
Just thanking everybody for their time. I'm married to someone who says, if you fail to plan, you better plan to fail. So these are our plans. Let's work it out. Let's make sure we're headed in the right direction. My job as a school board member is to make the ask that I think the county needs. So all of this information and all the stuff coming down the pipeline really helps solidify what that ask it needs to be. And looking at these plans is very helpful. So I appreciate everybody's time and effort who went into all of these things. Thank you.
Ms. Bynum?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with the thoroughness of preparation for this meeting and all the information that we have in front of us now. I just wanted to just throw out one statistic, which is important for us to know, is that the state of Virginia is anticipating within the next 3 years a 40,000 student reduction in daily membership in the state. So the fact that we're pretty much level really stood out to me. It was with the VSBA event that I went out, that was said to all the school board members at that. So I'm pretty excited that we have, just so that everybody knows, like, we're doing really well with an aging population in retaining the numbers that we have. And it's a challenge. Dr. Grimsley gets great credit for juggling that. But thank you so much for, I think we're all trying to be stewards, and I really appreciated Ms. Comer's point. We want to steward these buildings and what we have and the relationships that are so important to everybody's life and growing up. Thank you for all being here.
Ms. Janelle.
I just want to say thank you for putting all this together so that I can understand it. Who's one of the newest ones here, but it does make sense, and I really appreciate it. And sometimes when I hear about, I get frustrated with certain things. I mean, we've had 5 kids here in the schools, and we still have 3 of them still here, and sometimes I get frustrated, but it makes much more sense now. And I'm just so grateful to hear that we've had a non-contentious group here, and we seem to be in agreement. Know how we'll get there, we'll see, but we're in agreement that we can't have water dripping onto our teachers' heads when the kids are running anymore, or buckets in the hallway. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys letting me be here.
I like it when we have new board members because we all typically learn something when they ask questions that they think is a stupid question. I'm like, that's a really good question. I would like to say this to you regarding the 1%. I don't have high hopes. When's the last time you put something and asked the people if they wanted a tax? They're going to be like, no. So the thing is, Fauquier County and Page and Madison, they could all decide yes. And every time I run to Walmart, I'm going to be helping the schools in Fauquier County, but nothing here, right? You see, that's how singular that approach is, and so we really do need to educate because there's going to be a lot of things on referendum items, and the idea is probably going to be just say, it's too complicated, just say no. I can see it coming, right? I'm just saying. So I did want to share this with you. Historically, since I was just sitting here counting up how long I've been here, we, the school board, would say, we've accumulated these number of projects, we need to get a bond. And we would get a bond, or we wouldn't get it, we would ask the supervisors to get us a bond for a certain number of millions of dollars, and we would add to the school budget the amount that it would take to start paying that down over a 20-year period. Right? And I guess maybe a decade ago, we finished paying off the last of a bunch of loans that we took on when I was on school the first time. And we didn't want to go back there. We made a concentrated effort to try to say, we're going to try to do all our CIP on our annual budget and just keep that thing going and fix and fix and fix and fix. And now we're stuck here. So I think it's a really good idea to have a contingency plan because things are going to have to get done. And nobody wants to say the B word, the bond word, but how else are we going to pull together $2 million to start getting things done if the 1% thing doesn't work? So I just wanted to throw that out there. Supervisor Bryant Lee, many years ago, would say during our budget meetings, one of the only encouraging things that I would ever hear, and that is, I know that you all will do the best you can with what you got. And that's going to be true. It is our job to be custodians. So we will do the best we can. I'm looking forward to you guys getting the report that we're going to get regarding the analysis of the school system. And it should give us either confidence or we'll take a step back. We don't know. But we're looking forward to knowing it too, which is why we asked that it get executed. So that's all I have.
One thing real quick on your comment, and Bonnie, we need to verify this because I think it's going to be important. Someone said that if you order from Walmart from your house in Rappahannock County and pay the bill online, that is a Rappahannock sales tax. So you can pay it here and go to Walmart and pick it up, and we get the tax. So I want to make sure we verify that, because I think that's something we can all start doing now. Because we shop on Amazon all the time, but you can do it with other places, including like Martin's, if you pay ahead, and then just go pick up your groceries. Right?
That is correct. That is
Correct?
That's true. Yes.
Okay. So I think that's something we can advertise as well.
Just all become hermits. We'll remotely order and have delivered to our house.
All right, I think we are good. So I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn from the Board of Supervisors.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all very much.
We're going to recess for 5 minutes while we give people a chance to bug out. If they want to bug out. We'll return at 8:30.
I need to take, I think, is that yours right there?
Sure.
Does it say rec table on the bottom? Yes, it does.
This one's yours, isn't it? No.
So this one is the host.
Yeah, she's got one baby, yeah.
This is the first link of the chain.
Thank you.
So is this one?
She's a lot of fun too. It's a great school. Oh, there you go.
Now, we should just shift everybody. Well, no, I mean, are we going to sit like this?
Well, we need to tighten it up.
Or the speakers? Or we share a microphone? See, Rachel and I could share this.
You're like, ready for mom.
Yep.
You don't have to stay with Bonnie and go home now? Okay. Yes.
I'm excited to hear how that's up.
So we're going to sit this one here with
You want to be in the middle of everything, or I can move?
we're good, we're all good.
Is Rachel coming down here, or is she?
I'm gonna sit right here. I just got moved.
Well, that's as low as we can see each other. And then I realized I needed to cancel the conference. That's what I was like, conference. And the start. Yeah, I was like, oh, I can balance.
We do. All right, let's reassemble.
Yes.
So do we need another? This is the packet.
I told one.
You have this, right? Okay, I have two of them.
What's your man? Over there?
I think they're not here missing.
Yeah, come close. All right.
We can hear each other.
All right. Welcome. This is our regular monthly meeting. We're here to accomplish the business of schools for the sake of our students. There's opportunity for public comment before action items. We ask speakers identify themselves in the district. We ask that you limit your comments so that our meeting is reasonable in its length. If you have more information that can be summarized in 3 minutes, please leave behind materials for the board's review. The moderator will ask you to include your remarks as time has elapsed. If you have questions during the session, you can ask for clarification from your school board member or administrator after the meeting's adjourned. The very first thing we have to do is recognize Gail.
And Jessica.
And Jessica.
Part of the VSBA Board Appreciation also includes the incredible work of our school board clerk, also school bookkeeper, auditor extraordinaire, and mother hen of the central office, and what else can we add to your roles that she does all of? And then also, we have a new deputy clerk this year, and also in addition to our central office team as our executive secretary. So we also spread the love this year. I do not have my own secretary. This is, Jessica serves everyone, and when I say she serves everyone, she is a true servant in that position and is always asking what she can do to support everybody. And she's also our deputy clerk, and she's here tonight. So we do have a little special recognition for both Gail and for Jessica, because we so much appreciate the work that they do. Couldn't do it without you ladies. Here, Jessica. Come down.
Yeah, we need a picture.
We need a picture.
We got somebody taking pictures, so.
Here you go.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you both.
ladies. Thank you. I told her.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna read through some of these donations that we received that total about $6,000 in the last month. John Guermont, $100, carpentry. Longyear, $100 to carpentry. Colby May, $50 to carpentry. Thomas Morgan, $250 to carpentry. Austin Griffith, $120 to the class of 2027. Men's Basketball League, $1,740 to the RCS Athletics Department. Rose Hill Small Animal, $250 to the FFA. Rose Hill Large Animal, $250 to the FFA. Lenny Geno, $250 donation to the Ski Club. Steph Ritter, $300 donation to the Ski Club. Greg Williams donated 4 wreaths to the RCS valued at $64. Rappahannock County PTO donated $2,500 to RCS for the 7th grade field trip. Rappahannock County PTO. We will accept these donations with a letter of gratitude during the consent agenda.
And also, in addition to the donations, the board had directed staff at the last meeting to include grants in the consent agenda. So we do have a grant report to sort of catch up the board on all of the grants that have been received for fiscal year 26. So you'll see the format that we've decided on will go through the purpose of putting this on, first of all, and there is a policy that goes with it that also, as part of the consent agenda, it's not a policy adoption, it's a regulation, it's an administrative protocol for how we enact a policy. So that needed a minor change too, to do this in the consent agenda rather than assigning to a specific committee of the board. Mm-hmm. It'll just come to the full board at consent, and that's what that policy says. But also, it goes through the types of funds. And we have $1.4 million in grants for fiscal year 26. Wow. So far, and there's more in the works. We'll talk about that in a second. But you can go, as you scroll down on that report item, it also ties each of those grants to part of our comprehensive plan and why we went for those. And then it has detailed grant and donation listing as well. So it goes through each of those grants, who the program contact is, what it does, who's it from. So this is the format I'd like the board to consider as a part of the consent for each board meeting afterwards. This is any new grant would go on as its own item under that consent agenda, and we'll update our formal running tally of all of them.
It's very, very helpful.
This is excellent.
Even this one that says we were denied, it's good to know.
That was a big one. We were so sad about that for our Spark grant that we applied for an end of school ESY, extended school year grant. They changed some language in it to make it more eligible for summer type programs. That would have been for $900,000 for a 3-year.
Oh, I missed that it was denied.
We found out it was denied.
Like, wow.
Denied.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
That was a big one too, and I'm sorry some of the folks left here because they had a hand in putting that application together, but that was a big one. We were working on that for a while, so bummer, but we're going to reapply. And one other one that we wanted to bring up that just hot off the press was an NSBA, that's the National School Board Association, partnered with Go Green.
Virginia, or Go Green Initiative for Air Quality. So there's a grant that we qualify for. So Robin, if you wanted to speak to that, we wanted to put that on here.
Tired of me tonight.
Oh, we never get tired of you, Robin.
So Shannon just sent it to me on Monday. I watched the webinar, and it ties in very nicely with our HVAC upgrades because it's up to $45,000, and basically what the National School Board Association and what is the name of the organization?
Go Green.
Go Green. So what they do is they come in and do an assessment first. And then, since we're doing updates already, they could be beneficial in making sure we do the right updates for air quality. And so it's a 5-year process, 4 or 5, depending on the process. And so they start out with the testing, and then they take you through the process to help you meet the standards. And so rarely do I get a grant application that we can actually apply for because of our LCI, but this is based on a free and reduced lunch. And it just has to be over 50%, and sadly ours is over 60%. So we qualify for it. And with the HVAC study already being done, I think that's a good, when I share that with the grant people, that might be an incentive. The only question I had for Dr. Crimsley was that we had to do a school board policy that would be you guys. They give a template. Did you share the template with them?
Yep, it's
They give a template that would basically, you put your name in. So I just need the okay from the board to go ahead and apply for this grant.
Yeah, we wanted consensus from the board since it would require some policy updating and things. Not right now, we don't need to confirm the policy now. But
Just that
that's
you'd
going
be
to be
willing to do
required
that.
as part of the grant project. So prior knowledge of what's coming to say, yes, then we agree, move forward, because it does take some of that.
There's 6 requirements, and I'll just read them. Enact school board policy to address indoor air quality management, complete a baseline indoor air quality assessment with ASSIST, key school district stakeholders complete training, so that would be myself, our maintenance custodians, complete a plan to reduce it, or to improve it, to manage it, and to reduce emissions, enact it throughout the district, which is pretty easy in our district, and basically measure, quantify, and report where afterward the plan is implemented. So, but your key is the policy. So
Are there any hidden costs that would not be covered by this 45,000? Like, would the extra time put into making that happen be covered by the grant itself? Can it be used towards, like, is it going to take a lot of time for you guys to implement those
it's going to be
policies?
me, because I'm basically it. But the training, training on indoor quality, we're required by the state now to do testing.
So it's part of your
It's
job
part of what we need to
description
do anyway.
Right, yeah.
And they are just assisting us to meet that requirement.
And that was my very question to Robin. I said, please go through this and let us know if the juice is worth the squeeze. Because if it's not, then, I don't like to pull her bandwidth or anybody's, honestly, off of what they're.
But I think the assistance and the guidance they give would be very beneficial, because I'll be the first to admit, I've read everything I can, but it's not my expertise. And I think having them, and through the Virginia School Board Association, I feel pretty confident. This is their 2nd year of implementation, so they're schools that have already gone through the process.
And is this, like we were talking earlier, a one-off grant? It would just be a one-time thing?
Right, they would help us implement it, and then it's 5 years, so it's a process.
You follow through for 5 years?
Completion. It's not added costs after to sustain it. It's the 5 years.
We're going to have to do this anyway, so it would be nice to get the technical support and the financial support where we could.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's very good timing for.
With everything that's going on right now with the HVAC, and that they could actually help us to make sure we're meeting requirements as needed.
Because we're about to make big investments.
Right, and we want to get the bang for our buck.
And what do you need us to do tonight then?
It's part of the consent agenda. So
Okay, so
if you adopt the whole consent agenda, it's saying yes, the affirmative to all those. And at the beginning of that item, at the top is, to raise awareness of it, and also to formally acknowledge, thank donors as well.
Yep,
That's
yep.
part of what we're doing, and we'll also send a letter to the foundations and the donors from the grants from the school board, because now that you've seen it, you've given consent. So that's an important piece too, and also to ensure the policy is met, and it helps us to give consent to go ahead and execute all processes necessary to do all things with these grants.
Specifically for me, to submit this grant, I have to check the box that you are willing to enact the school board policy about air quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great change. I appreciate the work you put into it.
No, I think this is excellent for, clarity and to be able to look back on. I know me and Stacy and Shannon have worked on this for the past year or something, but this is great. This is what we wanted. It was like, it just goes through and lists what we have and what's there, so people can refer back to it, because especially out in the public, we do get a lot of questions. Well, why are you doing this? Or why did you pay for this? Or why did you do that? And there may be little things that if we could throw in there as we tweak, like if there's something huge outfacing that the community sees, oh, this is what we did with it. Like we put up a freestanding mental health center. We could throw that in there somewhere, that this is something that you might see out there, or ways it's enacted in your community. Just little things like that. Because some things, it's hard to break out. You got $100,000. What did you do with it all? We're not going to list each little thing to tell people, definitely, because that gets way too intense. But if there's anything big that they might ask us about. Because I am fielding some of those questions because people know that I've dealt with some of the grant stuff. So
Yeah,
Just an executive summary. statement.
Yeah, it might be good too, now that we've gotten into the grant writing and making business so much, maybe we should have a landing page off of finance.
Yeah.
That we could direct people to a link, and you could click on each of those and get much more detail about the project. A lot of our projects even have their own websites. And,
yeah, that would be awesome.
Things that, to make it more clear. Again, a lot of more collective work to do that, but I think as much transparency and awareness as we can bring to those efforts and the things that they're doing would be great.
And hopefully maybe a little bit upfront, but then to keep it up might be not so difficult, hopefully. But as we can see, 1.4 is a big chunk of our budget, and I don't think that's typical for most counties, or for most, as we've seen. I've just been to a couple meetings where they keep putting things up on the board and talking about how the budget breaks down, and they don't have hardly anything in grants, and I'm going, wait a second, this is a big portion, and we want to make sure we're handling it correctly for the public and for us, Thank you.
I think it's wonderful that we're going for big grants like bigger districts who obviously if they have a budget that's 10 or 20 times as big as ours, and that grant, we're very primed to have that proportion be smaller because they're equal number grants, dollar number grants for different things. I'm really glad to see, because sometimes people say, oh, I hear you got this grant, and I don't know, and I'm left kind of on my back foot. I really liked the model that I saw at the training that I went to earlier in Henrico County that actually had a lot of, they had an attachment within it that you could go through and the public could see as well. And I do think having a way that we can, I like that idea of having a way that's available on our website where we could, someone who wants to delve deeper, or if I want to delve deeper and understand it that would be great to have even more detail. But this is just an amazing start. I'm just one.
Yeah, thank you guys. I know it took a lot of energy, so.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from January 13th and 20th? The 13th has an amended version. Is there a motion to adopt the amended version of the 13th and the original of the 20th? Second. We have a motion from Ms. McCool. Is there a second?
A second.
Second from Ms. Geno. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ms. Bynum, did you have opportunity to review the bills?
I did, and there are going to be a few adjustments, but it was nice to meet with Stacy.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Good motion, Ms. Bynum. Is there a second? Second, Ms. McCool. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered, Dr. Grimson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The first item is everyone's favorite item, the school calendar. And this year, we have the pleasure of having our Executive Director of Academic Services and Human Resources, Mrs. Karen Ellis, present the calendar.
Good evening to the board. So I get the privilege of putting together or proposing our calendar for the 2026-27 school year. And First thing, you can go to the next slide if that's okay. Our calendar committee was well represented, so we listed everyone that was on our committee. Dr. Johnson and I were co-chairs, but really she kind of took the lead, and it's Dr. Johnson, so. But she's got it down to a well-oiled machine, so. All right, next slide. There are some requirements that, we have to abide by, and so like she's reported before, Virginia Code, our school year needs to be 180 days or 990 hours, and as we go through it, I'll show you, but we rely on the 990 hours. Our school day is required to be 5.5 hours, taking out meals and recess. And this is where we have that extra time built in because our school day, the average is 6.1 hours. And so we use that extra time as bank time to reach, we well exceed the 990. I'll talk about that now. We actually build in, because of the extra time that we go, we have 10 built in what we call snow days or weather days or whatever. And then after that, we make up the first 5 days and then plus 1 day after that for each 2 days missed. Now, we've had the luxury of not having to do that in recent history, and we're hoping that the weather's breaking, and we've missed 7 days so far, so we haven't hit that threshold of day 11 yet, but there is a plan in place on our calendar if that were to happen.
We were asked, though, we get asked a lot of that when we have weather for consecutive days. Well, when are you making them up? And that is on our calendar how we do that. However, we'll say we are very proactive in that, too, in asking our staff and teachers to look at data, look at pacing. Do you need, because we had an opportunity tonight to ask the board if you wanted to add take one of the days coming up, because this week is a short week again, and but we do have some meaningful things happening. We have parent-teacher conferences, and we have some vital trainings happening. Professional development. So that was an opportunity, but staff and principals did say very loud and clear that no, we have our pacing figured out, and we're going to be working on that to absorb at this point. But the understanding, if there's additional weather that we may be taking from spring break, so we offered it.
Yes, so we did get input from staff because of the prolonged closing that we had with this ice and snow. So the next slide talks about some of the priorities that we had. We did get some feedback through a survey from staff as far as some of the things they wanted us to consider when we went into our committee meeting on January 14th. We want to definitely ensure that we have that 990 hours of instruction. We well exceed that, so, but we do want to make sure that that's there because that's how we meet that code. An educationally sound calendar, so just where are we placing the breaks, and are we making sure that we're considering the placement of those breaks so that learning can continue, especially like right before SOL assessments and things. Professional development time, there are a lot of initiatives that compete for our time and for our teachers' time and staff as far as trainings. One of the big ones lately was the Virginia Literacy Act, and but there are just lots of initiatives out there that we have to train staff, so we want to make sure we build in some professional development time. And when you look at the calendar, we have built in those 8 days of professional learning, 5 at the beginning and then 3 throughout the year. We also do professional development. I will say our building administrators are very good about making sure that professional learning continues through faculty meetings and our CLTs, our collaborative learning teams that meet weekly at the elementary school and monthly at the high school. So there is some professional development that happens at those times as well. Spring break, we kind of always toss back that, do we do 2 shorter ones or a longer one? And so within the committee, we had some discussion there. Parent work schedules, I'm kind of giving it away, but I'm pleased to say that we really do look at parent schedules. We know early release days can be problematic for parents. So we have gotten those down to 3 early release days, right before winter break, and then right at the end of the year, because there are a lot of tasks that have to be finalized before graduation and the end of the year. high school semester, it's always a priority to end that semester at the end of the winter, when winter break starts. We find that it supports SOL results, and we're able to accommodate that in our calendar. I mean, there are divisions that have a different schedule, and they come back from winter break and they're doing SOL testing third week of January, second week. So that is one of our priorities, to have that semester a clean break at winter break. Work days, just ensuring that we allow teachers time to plan for second semester. There was some discussion because we have sometimes had 2 days built in, like we did this year, but because of the way the schedule fell and other priorities, we did build in 1 day to start that second semester. So staff comes back first in January, and then students start the day after. And then at the end of the year, just making sure those half days allow for teachers to finalize grades, get ready for graduation requirements and things, and prepare those report cards. And then this year, there was a lot of talk about ending before Memorial Day because it is a late Memorial Day. And then so we worked that into the calendar, and also with summer school. So we are going to end the school year and go right into summer school. And there's some challenges there, but that gives us that month of June, a full 3 weeks there to get our summer school needs met, or students' needs met. So the next slide, this year, we had a lot of consensus, and I think gathering some information before we met was helpful. Only one draft was prepared this year. Similar to last year, 176 days of instruction, 83 in the first, 93 in the second. Second semester is normally when you see the weather, so we'd like to build those extra days and put those in that second semester. We continued with 2 full parent-teacher conference days, 8 professional development days, I mentioned that earlier. The work day at the start of the second semester, that is down from 2 to 1 in this calendar. I believe that is January 4th, so students would come back on the 5th of January. 3 early release days, we reduced that from 4 in this calendar down to 3. And we did have some requests, and a lot of divisions do this, adding the Friday before Labor Day and making that a 4-day holiday break. So we talked about that, and we were able to accommodate that and keep those 176 instructional days in there. We did make October 12th, which we have had off in recent history at least. We did make that a work day for teachers, but students would still have off. We put out a survey for all stakeholders. We had 88 respondents, a little bit down from last year. And at first I was like, that's lower. And then Dr. Johnson kind of reminded me maybe that's a good thing because most people respond when they don't like something. So we had 88 respondents, half were parents, 25% were staff members, a fifth were a staff member, served as a staff member, and they were a parent. We had just a couple community members and 1% students, so I'm still impressed, that they took the time to do it. So we did put out the survey and receive feedback, and really there were a few requests about shorter spring breaks, like 3 of the comments were about having 2 shorter spring breaks. Fewer half days, 4 people commented on that. 2 people said it was a really long winter break. It had to be 2 parents. A later start date, someone's talked about that. Adding a work day before the parent-teacher conferences, adding 2 days before they come back from winter. I had 2 work days before students start, and I think that's at the beginning of second semester where we put it down to 1. And then going back to having October 12th as a holiday for everyone. Right now it's a staff work day. But 82% of the comments were positive, and Dr. Johnson assures me that that's probably as close to 100% as we could ever want. So
Usually it's 49 to
It
51.
is. So she was very,
Yeah.
yes, she was very excited about that. She's like, make sure you tell them that's like unheard of. And so the recommendation from our committee is that we're putting forth the draft calendar, which you have a copy of, for the 2026-27 school year. And we ask that you approve that draft calendar tonight.
Oh, what?
Any questions for me?
Well done.
Just tell Dr. Johnson I did a really good job.
Many years, we've like, is it option A or option B?
Yeah.
Option A, and it's 50-50. So whatever we pick, we always tick somebody off. I love it.
And I will say there was and it's not in here, I'm not sure why, because really that week at Thanksgiving has been very, very popular. And I have said, you know, I don't know if we can always do that because it kind of depends on where things fall. And we do, you know, we start on the 12th, which I don't think's that bad. I mean, a lot of our divisions
starts earlier nowadays.
Yeah, so, you know, it's just making sure that if we're doing that week, that they understand that, you know, we really can't push the date back further than the 12th and get all our days in. But that Thanksgiving break has been very popular. We'll see if we can continue that after next year.
I do have a few questions, but I'm not trying to make this longer than it needs to be, because this is my first time ever going through this where I get to ask questions. One question I have is, when you make the committee, I was just wondering, I mean, obviously it's very popular and it went well and it's great. Is there a reason we don't include any parents in that calendar committee?
We had one, we did have a parent last year. A lot of these...
Our parents, I can see a lot of them are parents, but they're staff.
Yeah, they do serve two roles, but I will say too that a lot of our conversations, not that parents can't contribute in any way, I don't mean it that way, but a lot of it is pretty, like I said, Dr. Johnson's got it pretty much down to a well-oiled machine. There's not a lot of give and take with what we can do. So, yeah, we do have some staff members that also serve as parents. We did put it out this year for parent comment. I know one of the biggest things that we've gotten were the early release days, and I think we've dwindled those down. Really, their necessity to have those days where we have them.
Yeah, I think when you explain like that we need those days to get ready and all that, helps people to understand we're not just giving you 3 party days in a row at the end of the school year. Like, obviously the kids aren't getting a lot done those days. In fact, I saw the initiative to let the kids out of that today, and then I thought it would sound great to me. Like if those of you that don't know, if the kids meet certain requirements in the high school, they don't have to go those last 3 days. They're going to get to start their week early. And then one of my kids was like, that's the stupidest thing ever, because we love those party days at the end. And I was like, oh gosh, I hope this isn't backfiring, because it was supposed to be right. But
you can still come.
But no, okay, that makes sense. And then this may be a long conversation. Maybe I'll come ask you about it. But I've always been curious about those 990 hours and how many do we actually have? You said we're well above them.
Yes.
And like I said, we're not going to open this tonight, but I just want to put it out there. The other schools, a lot of other schools get out way before we do, earlier than the day. So I'm just wondering, I'd like to have a conversation at some point in time with like, why did we pick this schedule? And I know sometimes elementary school schedules are longer than high schoolers, but I've heard that talked about, that our high school has a lot of extra hours built in that doesn't necessarily have to be. And I don't know if that's true or not. I'd love to hear at some point in time, but that there's extra hours built in, and it's because we have to be on the same bus schedule, so they have to be on the same as the elementary kids. But if there was any flexibility, like could we let our high schoolers make their day somehow more efficient? But just throwing it out there. I'll come talk to you about it.
But right now, our day, on average, it's 5.1, so we're about 40 minutes longer than that. As far as time, I'm trying to do the math in my head. I would say it roughly about 1,100 hours, maybe not quite that. I think Shannon's getting her calculator now, maybe.
Do the math. 6.1, right?
6.1 times 176, which
that's how we get out of 180.
We do have some early release date. We have those 3 early release days.
So we have 1,073.6 hours of instructional time. So we're well over the 990, yes.
And that helps account for, you know, if we do have an early dismissal that was coming because of weather, or we have a delay, you know, we have that buffer in there too, because the superintendent does have to sign off at the end of the year that we have either met the 180-day requirement or the 990.
Or the 990.
So we don't ever want to get in a position where we're like right on the...
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well that's great information. I think we should tell people to go look at this when they ask about the calendar, you know, like, here's the report. I don't know. I know we put it out there, but it's sometimes buried in agendas. It's hard to find, you know.
Sure, no, and that's a really good question. Another question that we get in calendar discussion a lot, especially regarding snow days, is about remote instruction and why don't we do virtual learning and remote days. You'll see a lot of other schools utilizing unscheduled remote learning days. Well, the reason is the statute is really clear about if you do that, you must have your staff report, be able to prepare meals and have students be able to access meals. So if they can do that, I'm going to open school in Rappahannock County if that works. So that piece is a little difficult. Now you can have different models, but if it's unsafe for our students to get there and generally our staff, we can't really have the staff it would take to prepare all the meals. In some cases, maybe that could be the case on some unscheduled days where it's a building issue or something where we could do that. But on snow days where it's very, like it was, this ice encasement issue, we had a lot of staff members that were stuck.
And I just want, I don't know if it's more transportation or calendaring, but I wanted to throw out kudos to whoever decided to just call it all off that week. That was great to let us know ahead of time. It's really nice for a lot of parents to be able to know and plan what's happening. That's great.
It's good to see, and I was just reminded that, like, we have more days in the second semester, so that's smart to do, and it keeps, because that's what sometimes I think people wonder, oh, you're going to get so far behind, but if we have a lot more days in that semester, it's
That's usually where our weather is, so you try to plan for that.
It really does feel like a sweet spot, though, with all the Thanksgiving and the long break of Christmas, and now we get a spring break. I'm liking it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great job. I will tell Dr. Johnson you did outstanding, but not quite as good as her, but almost. That's what we have to say.
I'd say she did better. You can tell Dr. Johnson.
I will tell her. Will Fairhurst said, other than Will. The next item on the agenda, 9.2, is the Madison Agreement. Now, on this item, we may want to consider potentially not continuing the Madison Agreement, and here's why. Oof, I can't believe I said that. It's been in place for almost 20 years, but because you remember our supplemental basic aid cap issue that we've been fighting for quite a while. We have exceeded the amount of adding the 2007 amount of basic aid plus the amount you could get to equal where the cap threshold would be. So since we've exceeded that threshold now, anything it's now a wash. We've absorbed the cap amount, so it all comes in the state. So we've received 0 supplemental basic aid. We've received 0 this fiscal year. We will receive 0 next year. And the cap fight has already died. So our agreement then is only an added cost burden for us at that point because we're providing a service to Madison, providing 40 social cultural histories from our social worker, which is
right?
It's a lot of work.
a lot of work. And the bandwidth, anyway, it is a lot of work. We do have the career and technical education slot for slot. Not to say we couldn't still do that if we had, it's just that service that we're adding, we're not getting now any cost supplement for that.
If we switched to Page, the cap still works. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who we partner with, the cap's the cap.
And we've exceeded the threshold at this point, so unless the legislation changed, which we've seen it's not going to.
I think it'd be a great statement to tell DOE we're stopping this agreement. We're not going to take advantage of this agreement because there's no advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It'd be good for them to know that we're going to stop.
Yeah.
Is there any goodwill that will will Madison be hurt by this to some degree?
Case studies is a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be a cost for them to cover that.
They don't have a social worker currently. That's like the biggest thing, maybe.
That's been a huge benefit for them. So I did talk to Anna Graham, their superintendent, about this already, and understanding that as much as I want to help you out, she's a good girl. I love Anna, but there's no longer a benefit for us to use those resources elsewhere without any type of cost differential that'll help pay for it.
Yeah. This doesn't look like it benefits us
But
at all.
But when you said that we can still share some of the programs with each other, and can we share with surrounding counties also? I mean,
Absolutely,
we already
we've done
do
that
with
many
Germantown.
times with different programs. We can still do that without this. That was one of the items we listed as a way to, make sure we had the contiguous county agreement pieces that were required to get the supplemental basic aid. But that's not as to say we couldn't strike an MOU with any county at any time to do. We almost did that with Page one year for their auto tech program, and we had it almost all the way to the finish line. So
The only dilemma, of course, is transportation.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
the time that it takes to get to our neighbors.
Yeah.
And it takes away from the school day, so.
Mhm.
But we could offer it to them, they could be part of our program. So we would get partial credit for a button chair.
Yep.
Do we have anybody going to Madison currently for any of their programs?
I don't think we have any students currently. Year to year, it varies. We used to have more participate when they had the cosmetology up and running, but that's
They
not.
not have that anymore?
That's not running.
We have them coming to us for.
Culinary is
culinary
usually
training.
what they would choose. So I think we had one last year. I don't think we have any this year.
Last semester, I know we did have a few.
Yep, it's time to can it. It's been 20 years.
I think it would be kind to our social worker to not add that extra to her plate.
Exactly.
And we value her tremendously. And
oh, yes.
We do need to look out for our own when we can. I mean,
So we don't need to vote on this agreement if we're not going to do it.
No, but it's on there in case you did want to.
Yeah.
So
it's surprising to see that recommendation, but I understand the rationale.
I think I would probably not defer, but just, I don't think I know enough about it. I'm like, I don't want to burn any bridges, but it also seems like you guys are well aware of we're kind of not taking advantage of it. It's just not a benefit for us anymore. We're not getting our backs scratched at all anymore, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yep.
So hopefully we can send them a nice plate of cookies while we do it from culinary or something like that, you know?
All right. Is that it?
that's all of my reports. Yes, sir.
Does there anybody have any ideas for this year for this VSBA honor roll nomination? Any business that stands out as one that's contributed? You can't hear me. Where's my mic? I don't have a mic.
Thanks, Lou. Is there anybody that we can think of that we would like to present for the VSBA Business Honor Roll?
I have one suggestion for the board to consider, but it is a board decision. The Black Twig, the last 2 years, have hosted our staff
Hosted our
holiday party and done
parties, yeah.
such an amazing job and really go above and beyond to do a lot and even donate quite a bit to make that event happen. So
What do you think? Yeah,
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it?
That's
Love
great.
it.
we'll do it. Black Twig. Black Twig it is.
They have kids at school.
Great, well, thanks,
Is it
Shannon,
just
for bringing that
one
up.
business that we nominate? Is that?
Just do one per year. Yeah. We should go through the list and look. We've got a good list for many years. Reports, headwaters.
Oh, that's me. Yes, I do have. Cole Johnson, I met with her, and they've invited us to start coming to their board meetings, which I think, I'm not sure if Shannon's going to make it to those or not, but I think I'm going to try to make it to them as often as I'm available. They're going through a lot of changes right now, but Cole is obviously acting as their interim director currently, but really shaking things up a little and going through. So right now they have their scholarship campaign is going on. They've got something called Show the Love campaign, and they're trying to raise $50,000 by February 14th, Valentine's Day. And the anonymous donor has matched them for every $2 raised, they're matching $1. So it's a 2-to-1 match, is that what they call it? Up to $25,000. So they're trying to aim for $75,000 this year in new scholarship funds, they're saying. And that if that's successful, they're going to, the total scholarships for both the RCH class of 2026 and the current college, because they usually renew these scholarships each year, and they're going to increase it to $175,000, which is a very, very lofty goal, but that's amazing. And I know a lot of us have college kids that either graduating or are utilizing this, and that's amazing. And that's up from $100,000 last year. Right now, they've sent out a draft mailer, and they're messaging and social media messaging And then the applications will close on February 27th. So we've missed some days from school, so I know I'm pushing my senior to. So if you know anybody who's got a senior, tell them to get going. They are back doing their educational enrichment grants. I think Cole came and presented to the faculty a couple days ago. The scope is typical awards go for anywhere from $250 to $2,500 for classroom enrichment, which is kind of a wide variety, but they have a process where their guidance and their application has been updated. So the applications are accepted on a rolling basis throughout the year. And that's all. The Spark Glow program, which is, Jenny Capsa, the culmination of all these different organizations that came together to put the summer programs on. The deputy director is Lacey Jenkins, is continuing counseling training and program planning for Spark and Glow, so she's working on that. The funding, they submitted grants on behalf of RCPS, the Northern Piedmont Community Foundation, and the PATH Foundation. NPCF, Northern Community, or Northern Piedmont, has invited a full application for $25,000. Does that mean they've approved it, or they just said, go ahead and turn it in and we're going to look at it nicely? That's what I think it means. They're waiting on PATH to find out. So I think they're looking for funding still, if I'm understanding, because they were they involved with that $900,000 one that did not? Yeah, so I think they'll be looking for funding. The after-school enrichment program, ASAP, they're in a current semester. They've got 55 students enrolled. Their daily structure is workshops, outdoor free play, healthy snacks, quiet homework time. Now that the elementary school has homework again, they're providing homework help. And they have read volunteers coming in supporting the K through 12 or K through second reading groups. They've got a drama club that will be performing Superheroes Anonymous in May by Lainey Vickers. They've got workshop Wednesdays with where they're working on some mental health stuff from Verdun, Adventure Bound. They're delivering a program called Too Good, which I'm not real familiar with that, but it's the social emotional learning curriculum. Our line dancing team is also going again, and they'll be performing at the Variety Show again on February 28th. And then I said that they're working on that one-on-one and small group homework on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they are also participating monthly in community service for aged locked-in residents, which I think they're writing letters. I think they made Valentine's for them last week. And then community reading and outreach, they've got a read program is going where they're working with those kids through ASAP. And then the Dolly Parton Imagination Library event, there's going to be March 28th from 11 to 1 at the Rapp Library. They give out free books and they have a big party for sports early reading and family literacy. So a lot going on with Headwaters. So
it was a busy bunch.
Yeah, and I'll get that to Gail so we can put it in minutes maybe.
Yes,
Yeah, that's good. It's good to have it in the minutes. All right, MVGS?
Yes, the Mountain Vista Governor's School meeting was on January 15th. It was my first time going, and I learned all kinds of interesting things. I learned that as a Rappahannock School Board representative, I'm now also a board member of the MVGS. So I am one of 9 voting members. And even though we have a small number of students who are currently enrolled, my vote carries the same weight as everybody else's. So there's that. That was the news to me. We discussed student course changes for the upcoming year, the reallocation of some of the available slots between school districts. So there are other districts who are very amiable of taking slots, and if we want slots back, they will give us slots back. So that was really nice. It was nice to hear. I didn't know how all of that worked, and it sounds like it's a very congenial group, and they kind of figure it all out. Then we discussed funds and the agreements to lease these spaces from the community college locations. So that's stuff that's currently being discussed. So I need to get a hold of some of the older minutes to see where we are with that whole process. And talking with my superintendent, she's getting me all up to speed on all things Governor School. So the next meeting is next week, Thursday, February 19th. These are all open meetings, so I am free to discuss anything that comes up. I can also introduce anything that comes up. So because I'm in the unique position of being a school board member and also the parent of a governor's school kid, if you have any questions, or if you want to know anything about the meetings or the school, I'm in the process of all figuring this out myself. And anyone should come forward and ask me these things. So my understanding from our GT coordinator is we have a lot of kids who are interested in our slots. So hopefully we will fill all of our spaces with a bunch of new sophomores next year.
Can I ask, how many slots do we have?
6.
And we had up to 8 at one point?
Yep.
And we could have up to 8 if we needed it?
Yep.
And how many do we have currently at school?
4.
4 that are
2 are
using-
graduating and 2 will be juniors.
And do we pay anything extra to have them there, or is it all covered?
No, we do. Each slot costs about $9,000. So we are invoiced for the amount of slots we have, yes.
And then transportation, we pay for that, transportation?
Yep.
There.
We pay for 6.
And in the past, we've also sometimes had at-large
Correct.
students who actually we don't pay for their at-large slots. And
So for at-large, you pay for your allocation, your set allocation, and if your application pool exceeds your slots, then those additional can go into the at-large pool where they compete for those slots among the other districts as well. But each time we have set at-large, and I think it's only happened a couple times, but when we have, we've gotten them, so.
And we do pay for them, then it's not like
No,
that?
the at-large are kind
At-large
of in
is
the
just-
whole pool.
Right. And you said we pay for 6 slots even though we only have 4 kids there?
Yes.
we can have as many as 6. We don't pay for slots that we don't take.
No?
We do. We pay for the 6 slots, yes.
You have to, right, because you're saying you might take them, so depending on where you are, but, yeah. Yeah.
No? I heard a rumor, I don't know if you're supposed to bring up rumors, that they might be moving from LRCC to a different location. Is that any truth to that? Anybody
nothing
knows
on-
it?
I got
Nobody knows,
nothing on
okay. And that's a rumor. Don't mark that.
I can look into it and get back to you.
Okay.
I can't see that because they also use the Middletown.
Yeah, we use both the Middletown and the
Campus.
Warrenton campus.
You haven't heard anything? It's probably a rumor.
All right. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Report. Also, moving to public comment for a second and third time tonight. Anybody want to address the board tonight? Anybody want to address the board regarding the budget tonight? All right. Is there a motion to approve the school calendar as presented this evening?
So moved.
We have a motion, Ms. McCool, second.
I second.
Second from Ms. Geno. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. So order, we plan to discontinue the Madison agreement. Concur? Is there a motion to approve Black Twig for the VSBA Business Honor Roll?
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Bynum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. McCool. Any discussion? What do we have to do? It's a form that we submit to them. Can you take care of that?
And then we'll invite them to
the
to a
presentation.
future meeting when they can make it so that we can formally present them with
Great.
their certificate, yes.
And they will hang their plaque proudly
We
somewhere.
can ask them to cater that meeting.
Yeah, when they cater the
Bring us a snack while you're at it.
Yeah, snack.
We'll call it marketing. Right? Did we make a motion?
You did, but now we have to vote.
We didn't vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. So order, we good, Neil?
You got it?
Good? Is there any new business? We have an announcement to make. We're so proud of Dr. Grebsley. She's gotten herself, she's applied and been accepted to go to you can explain it better, the Harvard Institute for...
Harvard District, it's the Harvard Institute for District Superintendents, and nobody knows. Anyway, I don't like to...
I know, but go ahead and do it, because it's a prestigious thing. And she was selected, and the board is very supportive, encouraging her to attend. It's a 3-day adventure.
Yes, bringing together district superintendents and district leaders from around the world to collaborate on some big challenges. So I was invited to apply, and for some reason got selected, so.
Wow, well done.
Nice.
So happy to represent Rappahannock with some of the unique challenges we deal with and hear from other leaders around the country on how they tackle some of this stuff.
That's really cool. And Wes shared that with us a little bit earlier today, and I just wanted to point out that it's paid for by REACH, the REACH grant, which is one of the exact things, I worked with the REACH grant before here, and one of the exact things they would love to see happen with those REACH funds. So kudos for finding that and getting that and finding funding for it too. That's great to be able to realize that we can improve on that way, you know?
Bravo.
When is that?
It's at the end of April. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that last week of April. Yeah.
Great.
I'll have full report when you get back.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of work. It's a lot of work for those few days, but it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Cool.
How much playing?
Are there any future agenda items?
Well, I just wanted to share a report out from the conference in Richmond, or the virtual conference. Lenny and I each attended, and we were there like texting each other during the sessions from our own safe home. And yeah, we got to hear the governor and the lieutenant governor and the secretary of education, who all said independently that they're going to fully fund the JLARC recommendations. That's a goal, each one independently in their little 10-minute speeches. So that I'm hoping that is good for us. And yeah, the most striking thing was that decrease in average daily membership, like just in terms of there's a lot of facts that they talk about, just how the state budget is looking, overall we're looking good economically as a state, but then the state will have to backfill quite a few federal, federal losses in terms of healthcare and other things, which will definitely diminish that. So that was just interesting, seeing the bigger machinations of how that works and how the money gets to us. And then one of the people I thought was really interesting was this woman, Barbara Hunter, from the National School Public Relations Association. And she had some recommendations about communications and about getting ahead of sort of bad stories. And it was one of the interesting statistics she said was that, like, when they surveyed school boards about if there were, if there's a bad rumor that seems inaccurate or seems unfair, that like over 50%, she says she doesn't recommend doing this, but over 50% of school boards say that they would just try to ignore it and hope for it to go away, but that isn't an effective strategy. Was one of the things that was really interesting, but just that's a very common instinct that school boards have. That was an interesting effect of it. And and the other piece that she said she recommended was that we can use our meetings just to really highlight the good stories that we have, and I think we do a good job with that, and we can do more of that in the future. I do think that going through the budget season, and usually, we always have good things like that. But I do so that got me to think. One of the sort of rumors that I don't think is accurate is about a reduction in trades at our school, and I would love to have a report going out about the interesting things that are happening with our. I've seen it on Facebook, but not everybody is on Facebook, and it would be interesting to have some reports about some of the things that, in which we have in the past, and just to continue with that is a strategy that can be helpful.
And in April, I'll just piggyback on that. April is your Career and Technical Education Month, where your CTE Perkins plan is brought, and I know Ms. Place, who's also our Assistant Principal and Career and Technical Education Director, will be presenting a lot of the shifts with CTE and the expansions and the programs and the different things that the school has done. And also there'll be a podcast launching this week that we recorded today about the new public safety course. So Sheriff Connie, Major Dodson, and Janie Jenkins, Captain Jenkins, joined me for a great conversation about all of that. And I learned a lot too, actually, from their end. So that we're going to get that up this week.
Along that, this is going backwards, but what the donations for the carpentry department, was that something specific that they're making?
So the new carpentry instructor, Jim Waters, who's the president of the Still Waters Construction Company, he's gone out and done a little campaign too, very intentionally talking to citizens and for the community to support the work of the students rather than going after big grants and doing different things, because the message he's telling his class is about how important it is to give back to the community, and they're supporting you and investing in you. So as they progress into the spring, their goal is to hopefully get out into the community and work on quite a lot of service projects.
Awesome. Great. Okay, because I noticed I don't recognize a lot of these names. They're not just parents, and a lot of times you get parents that make. So that's great. Okay.
So citizens supporting it, and they're trying to use those funds to purchase go out and work on personal tools, things the school would not provide in their regular curriculum and project, but things for these students to actually have and take with them and do the work.
Cool.
Yeah, so it was a worthwhile and interesting thing to do.
It was virtual because the weather turned.
It was virtual, so I had a beautiful view of my frozen pond.
Yeah, it was nice to have Rachel to text back and forth because it was, I got the first meetings really well, and then the second day kind of, I was like, okay, this is over my head.
Yeah,
Too much.
Yeah, interesting to go over Robert's rules and all those things.
But it was very, very interesting, and I don't know how often we go to those kinds of meetings or how often I know if there's funds for that kind of stuff, but, because I've seen a lot more advertised, but it seems like they're $180 for a 2-hour Zoom call, and I'm like, whew. I just can't understand how that's, so you guys will have to fill me in on whether or not those things are useful, because some of them look really interesting, but then I'm kind of concerned about some of them. Maybe we can all get together and watch the Zoom from our room and make it.
Yeah, I mean, typically we've done, like, one person has gone to the Capitol. I started going because that was the thing that my predecessor said that I should always do every year. So I've been holding to Mrs. Johnson. And that's interesting. Just it's good to have representation when you go into the Capitol and just to understand the bigger picture, at least have that part of it.
And that's part of what our REACH grant helps us do.
This grant funding
helps us fund training for the board members too, because that was always a concern. Board members would back out of a lot of trainings, like we're not going to spend money on those things, you know. But now we're able to do some of those expenses to make sure the board does get those high quality trainings, and that's kind of the only avenue you get them.
Yeah.
Really, you know. So.
Yeah.
All right, are there any requests for future agenda items? No? Our next regularly scheduled school board meeting is back in this room on the 10th of March at 6:30 p.m. It is also our public hearing on the school budget and a more in-depth presentation of what we know to be the truth at that time. Is there a motion to go into closed session? You got it?
Missy, she has to read the motion.
Did you give it back in the folder?
I've got the actual.
Sorry, there's so many papers.
I don't have the words here.
Very good. Glad us at all.
Do you have another copy of it?
So the member of the board could move that we go into closed session for the purpose of approving a resignation and a, thank you, there it is, resignation and appointment of classified and coaching positions pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1.
Is there a motion? to that effect? We have a
I
motion
move that we do that.
from Ms. Bynum. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. McCool. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Sort of how long we're going to be in there? 5 minutes, and then we'll be back and vote and adjourn.